Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Thursday, December 4th, 2025 meeting of the South Haven Planning Commission. I'll call this meeting to order, and I'll ask Samantha to call the roll, please.
Michael Campbell,
Here.
Paul Fenton,
Here.
Clark Gruber,
Here.
Larry Heineck, Mary Hasley,
Here.
Eddie Polk, Tim Stegman,
Here.
Janice Barney,
Here.
Bob Sherman.
Here.
I'll make a motion to excuse those members who are not present. I think both of them gave us a heads up that they were not able to make it.
They did indeed. A motion
Support.
to excuse.
Support.
Support. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? They are excused. Thank you. We have an agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as provided?
I move I approve the agenda as given.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor of approving the agenda?
Can we have discussion?
Oh, yes, sir, please.
So, Mr. Chair, I think it was about a month ago, or to be more specific, 2 city council meetings ago, you attended one of their meetings and made a relatively impassioned plea. And I thought maybe you'd want to put that on tonight's agenda to discuss that, since apparently it's fallen on deaf ears.
All righty, so you'd like to amend the agenda to include the topic of a revision to our approval of short-term rentals, special land use applications, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
Mr. Chairman, could we understand better when you would like to have that discussion?
Want to do it earlier or later in the meeting?
I would say later.
Then
There may be a lot of people here who are less interested in that.
11A.
Sure,
Okay.
I think 11A would be fine.
And then further discussion on the agenda, or are we done with the amendment?
I think so.
All right,
Go ahead.
just for,
We haven't voted on the
voted?
amendment.
Oh, let's vote and then I'll
All right,
discuss.
then, all in favor of the amendment as submitted? Say yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Opposed? It's approved. The agenda is amended. And Mike, your comment?
Simply to be transparent, I had talked with Kelly this morning about the possibility of moving to amend the agenda to consolidate the 4 items so that we could just have 1 hearing, 1 discussion, and 4 votes. Unfortunately, per the attorney, we have to take each one separately, so we can't consolidate them. But it was in an attempt to make it more efficient in dealing with these.
Agree, and that certainly would make it more efficient, but we'll stand on our council's advice, and we'll deal with each of them separately then. So the agenda as amended is approved, I believe, and we have the meeting minutes from November 6th.
Mr.
Kelly?
Chairman,
We
I'm sorry.
didn't vote on the amended, we just voted to amend it. We didn't vote to
Thank
approve
you,
the amendment.
thank you all. Thank you, Kelly. Kelly wasn't going to keep me on the straight and narrow as well. So then, a motion to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the amended agenda is approved. Thank you. And now we have the meeting minutes from the November 6th meeting as submitted.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Then supported to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the minutes are approved. Item 4, citizens in the audience may be addressed the Planning Commission regarding items on the agenda for which there is no public hearing. But as you probably know, item 6 does not have a public hearing. That's a site plan review. And item 12 does not, nor 11A. So most items do have an associated public hearing. And as a point of reference, you may recall that at our November meeting, we had a public hearing on the 120 baseline application, a rezoning application. We did not close that public hearing, so we'll be able to resume that at the appropriate time. But if anyone would like to speak on other items on the agenda for which there is no public hearing, you're welcome to come forward. Seeing none, I'll move to our normal pattern of sharing comments received, either, well, in almost all cases, these are in writing. And I have, thanks to Amanda and Kelly, I have a list of approximately 55 such communications. All of them, every single one of them is in opposition to the rezoning of 120 Baseline Road. So with your,
Chairman?
yes, ma'am.
I have one with regard to Black River. Sarah Yetter.
Okay.
The very last item
Oh, did
on
I
the
miss that
list.
one? Oh, thanks very much. I did overlook that. Thanks, Mary.
Actually did print these to a PDF today, so I can project them on the screen if you'd like, as was suggested at the last
I
meeting.
think that might be helpful. It might make folks more realize that their comments are read and heard. I mentioned that last month, that I know and I think every one of us reads all of these as they're provided to us. So what I'll do is I'll just identify the sender, and until I get to that last one or two, these are all in opposition to the rezoning of 120 Baseline Road. And the citizens are George and Beverly Ebersole, and I'll apologize in advance if I should mispronounce someone's name, Susan Shields, Mark and Jean Chupan, Dan O'Donnell, Ann Pantalone, Jim and Jenny Nicholson, Terry and Gail Nelson, Mary Ellen Keith, I'm sorry, I passed Jim and Jenny Nicholson, I think, Terry and Gail Nelson, Mary Ellen Keith, Michael and Patricia McInnes, Richard and Diana Fleming, Bob and Peggy Martin, Gwen and Mike Klein, Roger Rathburn, Linda and John Albury, Jenny LaRue, Kathy and John Duda, Robert and Maureen Steffen, Ann Pantalone and Dan O'Donnell, Mark and Jean Chupan. Am I reading names twice? Mike Klein, Susan Shields, Mary Ellen Keith, Kathy and John Duda, Mary Majorano, Gerard and Jennifer Durkee, James and Lynn Spur, Carlos Stivers, Harry Hendricks, Marty McGrath, Catherine Watts, Margaret Bath, Gay Myaniki, Jane and Paul Diedericks, Paul and Pat Stevenson, Jane Diedericks, Keith Kalinowski, Richard and Diana Fleming, Anne Marie Heidbuchel, Gina and Mike Tuttle, Pat Yelmini, Ann Pantalone, Lynn and Dean Fedowa, Linda and John Albury, Colleen Klotz, Richard Watts, Alexandra Kalinowski, Gwen Klein, Diana Fleming, Jim and Jenny Nicholson, Michael and Patricia McInnes, Dan O'Donnell, Jay Campbell, Sharon Craig, Paul Diederich. And then, as Mary pointed out, in opposition to the rezoning of 285 Park Avenue, Sarah Yetter. Have I overlooked any?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you, yes,
Apologize. Our
they are,
apologies.
their address is Park Avenue, the rezoning is on Black River Street. Thank you for that correction. Any that I've overlooked?
Mr. Chairman, I would note that several of the names were repeated because several people did send more than one
More than once.
correspondence.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much, Kelly, for that detail.
And I'm not sure if you read Johnny and Gerald Durkee. I think there were a couple Jennies, and so there,
I definitely
your
read,
eyes might have crossed.
I definitely read the Durkees.
Okay.
Yes. They are here someplace, but I know I read them. Any others that I may have overlooked?
I just appreciate having them up on the screens
Yeah.
for the viewers to try the game themselves, in your head, see how you did in enunciating the names as well. We don't want to interrupt us, but, it's not easy.
Yep. And special thanks again to Samantha and Kelly for their efforts in accumulating that list. So, all right, then I think pardon me? Thank you very much. I think we can move on then to item 5 on the agenda. and that is the zoning map amendment for 120 Baseline Road. And for the record, and as a reminder, I'll say that we remember that Commissioner Hosley is in conflict on this issue because her property does abut the property in question. So she will not be participating in the discussion, nor will she be voting. And again, as a reminder, we did open a public hearing in our November meeting. We had lots of comment, and no doubt we'll have lots of comment tonight. We did not close that public hearing, so I believe we can just say that public hearing is open. Am I right on that? And we can invite the applicant if they would like to make any presentation or provide more detail. Kelly, do you have something to add?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is fine to do that. Before we invite the applicants to give their presentation, the city attorney did prepare responses to some of the commission's questions that were asked at the last meeting. And if that's okay with you, I'd like to give him an opportunity to respond to those questions.
Thanks very much.
And before that, I do have one question as a point of order. Last time, anybody that was in conflict of interest remained at the dais, but I'm not comfortable with that. So I don't know about the rest of the commission, whether they're comfortable or not.
I'm good with it personally. Mary was silent as a mouse up here and showed no facial expression whatsoever. And I know that you thought that it potentially could be viewed as intimidation, even if nothing was presented at all. But I'm okay with her, or any of us at any point in time making their personal choice on whether or not they want to be up here or not.
Other comments?
I agree with Clark. I'm fine.
And certainly there's some merit in asking a conflicted member to abandon their seat here and sit in the audience, but I'm comfortable with Mary being here, so.
Well, and I'll also say that I was called after the last meeting by a couple people. And whether or not it's true or not, they said notes were passed between a couple of commissioners. So I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but there is that possibility for that misconception to the public.
Okay, noted.
Which is an ethical breach.
Mr. Attorney, would you like to offer some insight, please?
It's at the discretion of the Planning Commission. Your rules of procedure don't indicate whether a member has to leave when they have recused themselves for disqualification. There's nothing in Robert's Rules of Order, modern version, which you have adopted in your rules of procedure. So it's something that would be left to the discretion of the Planning Commission.
All righty. So, Tim, did you want to make a motion, or is that discussion adequate?
No, I just wanted to raise the
Okay.
point, and I guess I would say at some point, if I feel uncomfortable, I'll just tell you and I'll step down myself, because I wouldn't want to be up here for possible legal action later on.
All right, thanks for that. Kelly, you said there was some legal opinion in regard to some of the questions previously from various commissioners. Is that correct?
Yes, I will turn it over to the city's attorney to respond to the questions that were raised at the last meeting.
Yep, so not a formal written legal opinion, but Commissioner Campbell had 3 questions that I didn't have answers to immediately at the last meeting. And before we resume the public hearing and your deliberation, I wanted to address those in case anybody had questions about those or wanted to discuss that later on. The first question was whether there are limitations on the percentage of manufactured homes that can be owned or rented in a mobile home park. There's nothing in the Mobile Home Commission Act that would indicate there's any sort of limit on that. So the answer to that is no. Second question was whether the state act would allow for short-term rentals and whether it would permit any city regulation of short-term rentals in a manufactured housing community. There's nothing in the Mobile Home Commission Act that addresses short-term rentals. It doesn't expressly state that they're allowed and doesn't expressly state that they are prohibited. So presumably, the act would allow for short-term rentals in a mobile home park because it doesn't prohibit them, although ultimately the mobile home park operator may place restrictions on that. With respect to the second half of that question, does the STATE Act permit city regulation of short-term rentals in a mobile home park? The city zoning ordinance, as you're likely well aware, restricts new short-term rentals to an overlay district. The proposed rezoning of 120 Baseline and Webster Avenue is not within the overlay district, so at least for purposes of this proposal, short-term rentals would not be allowed in a mobile home park that was developed here because it's outside of the overlay district in the zoning ordinance. Again, there's nothing in the Mobile Home Commission Act that specifically addresses short-term rentals. There's no case law on the topic, but I believe, and my office believes, that there's nothing in the Mobile Home Commission Act that would preempt the city's zoning ordinance with respect to restricting new short-term rentals to the overlay district. The third question was, what is the process for a developer to appeal the city's denial of site plan approval? And so the process there is that the city would review a proposed mobile home park for a preliminary site plan approval under the Mobile Home Commission Act. That would look at three things. First, whether the proposal complies with local ordinances relative to land use and zoning. Second, local ordinances with respect to water supply, sewage, and drainage. And third, with respect to local fire ordinances and state fire laws. If the city granted approval, the project would move forward, and there are some other entities outside of the city that would also be tasked with preliminary approval. Preliminary approval is denied by either the city or any of those other entities that are tasked with preliminary approval. The applicant would be able to petition the State Commission to review that decision under the Michigan Administrative Code. If the State Commission were to find that the local standards were in conflict with the standards contained in the rules that it has adopted regarding mobile home parks, then the developer would be able to substitute the State Commission's findings for the disapproval of the city's. And then at that point, they would be able to move forward, assuming that they have all of the other preliminary approvals and that the commission did not find any reason not to substitute its decision for the city's or any of those other preliminary approving bodies. So I hope that answers the three questions that you had. If you have any follow-up now, I would leave it to the chair's discretion whether he wants to address any additional questions related to those three questions, or if you want to go to the public hearing.
Questions relative to what Nathan
I
said?
would just like to make sure I understood what I think you said. And what I think you said was that the way the city has laid out the overlay district and the fact that this property at 120 Baseline is not in the overlay district, that short-term rentals would not be permitted within this community unless something's changed by the city.
That is correct. That is my interpretation and my office's interpretation of the zoning ordinance and the Mobile Home Commission Act, although again, with the caveat of no court has ever addressed this question, so if it were to come up at some point, that's something that
Thank
the court would have to address.
Other questions, comments? Kelly, did you want to prelude to how we go forward from here?
Mr. Chairman, I think that your idea of hearing the applicant presentation and then resuming the public hearing is a good one. I would note that after the public hearing, the Planning Commission will need to discuss the proposal against the 5 map amendment standards that are in the zoning ordinance and that we talked about a little bit last month. And there is a resolution template in your packet. We did not prepare a resolution that was for or against. We left the template there for you to consider and to kind of fill in the blanks, if you will, based on your discussion this evening.
All right, thank you very much. So the applicant could come forward and offer any additional detail that we're unaware of.
For those that do not know me, my name is Dave Wyatrowski. I'm a lifelong resident of South Haven and project manager for Countryside Estates. I'm representing 120 Baseline LLC and Mr. Eric Rothner. With me tonight is in the back, John Allegretti, project architect, and Emily Palacios, our counsel. First off, I want to thank the commission and Mr. Chairman for your patience in this process being run out so far. It's not a normal course of business, and extenuating circumstances happen to apply. So I do thank you for that. I also want to ask further indulgence, please. Due to issues, I was not able to wear my hearing devices tonight, so please, if you speak up a little bit when you do, I would appreciate that so that we all understand what we're hearing. Of course, we're here for the rezoning of 120 Baseline and 204 Webster, or excuse me, 201 Webster. We're here to get it rezoned for the use of a mobile home park. Some time ago, I think it was 2003, Mr. Rothner and associates came and met with city staff in regards to the property, the Countryside Nursing Home. And at that time, they reviewed it. It was allowable under special use permit, or under a special use. And with that information, Mr. Rothner went ahead and purchased a very derelict piece of property. Through this process, he started with a local engineer doing the engineering for the project. Started and then commenced with demolition of the project in 2024. That lasted into 2025. Under the pretense that this would be proper use there and was allowed. Then in 2025, we were made aware, because of some circumstances that happened with the property and so on, and some tree removal and so forth. And my meeting with staff, that the manufactured housing community was removed from the ordinance. It was amended with that removal. Be nowhere in the city. So now here we are with a plan that was developed for this piece of property, and we're trying to move forward with it. So we're asking for the rezoning of that piece of property to include mobile home community. And really what we're asking for should have been, in my retrospect, should have been almost grandfathered in. It was kind of a thing where it was not done, we were not aware of it. The city has no responsibility to contact us, but at the same token, we also submitted applications for the demolition. We complied with all those items. It was never finalized out in 2024. It was still ongoing in 2025, and we were never made aware of anything during that period of time. So here we are, and the burden's been placed on us because of it. Now, there's several reasons why we wanted to go with a mobile home concept. And it's not the same thing as the same connotation that you may have as a mobile home park with transient people, with units going in and out. We're looking at units that are sizable. They're going to be single-family dwellings, homes. The architecture is such that it will blend very well, and actually goes back to what I call the old bungalow or shotgun style houses that were around through the early 1900s. There's still some of those in smaller scale, actually right west of the property on North Shore Drive. Right where the Windsurfer condominium were, there was a development of bungalows at that time. And Mr. Sharippa came from Kalamazoo, bought the piece of property, cleared it corner to corner, built condominiums, and very little green space is left. So things happen, goes on, but Mr. Rothner is trying to establish a community for people to enjoy South Haven just like he did. A man that's been coming here since 1946 as a child. And he has many, many fond memories of South Haven. And he wants other people to come to this city to also enjoy those same things that he has done. You know, he's had tremendous experiences here. He's a member of the First Hebrew congregation here in South Haven. Owns basically 5 homes in South Haven. So he's an established person here. Has been for a long time, a lot longer than I have, and I've lived here all my life. So I just wanted to get that through. But with this mobile home concept, some of the things that we put our finger on is, number one, is the speed in which these units can get built. We all know there's a shortage of skilled tradesmen in the nation, and especially around here. And there are material deficiencies, and we want to place these units all in basically cookie cutter fashion. We want all of them to be put in so that there's no disparity between the houses. They're all very nice homes, and what we're going to do is place them on foundations that are going to be nestled in the ground, so they'll have a lower profile than one that you may see at a typical mobile home park with skirting around and so on. So those are some of the things that we're looking to do here with that. And like I mentioned before, the layout and the look is going to be similar to, I don't want to say this, it's to older communities that were here in South Haven, the bungalow style, the center gathering area, and so on. So that's the thing we're trying to achieve. The community is going to have pools, basketball courts, pickleball courts, playground for kids, pavilion, and so on. Right now, without even trying to sell anything, he's got commitments for close to 50% of the homes there. So there is a need for this type of project, definite need. I want to next address the site and infrastructure. Been a lot of talk about site and infrastructure, a lot of misconception, so on. First thing we're going to look at is traffic. What are we going to have? We're going to have egress off of Baseline Road, a large, heavily trafficked road. It is heavily trafficked. That's the way it is because it's a main artery. It's going to be, the community is going to be gated, and so it's going to limit the speeds and access to and from the road. The other point of egress is going to be on Webster, and that is totally for service vehicles, for landscape people to come in and mow the lawn, people to take care of the pool and so on. So that's going to be what that particular drive is for. So you're not going to look at an increased amount of traffic there. In fact, you're probably going to have less traffic there than when it was a nursing home, being that you had employees going in and out of that drive 24 hours a day. So that's the first thing. The next thing is water. Been some items written about the water. Is it going to be this or is it going to be that? What it is going to be is a loop system from Baseline Road to Webster Avenue that's basically been reviewed by city staff and approved. In addition, there's more capacity than what we're going to dig into at the city filtration plant. So that's significant in itself. All these units will have individual services, individual meters and service, just like any other home in the city of South Haven. The road, everything as far as sewer and water will all be maintained in the road. The road will be easement for any type of maintenance that would have to be done by the city. Both the sewer and the water can be built in city, South Haven area water and sewer authority specifications. So there's nothing there. It's like any other community, any other street in the city. The sewer, that's going to be connected to the main line on Webster Avenue, which also has more than enough capacity to handle it. Next thing we want to look at is, let's see, we talked about the main stormwater. That site is very blessed with good perkable sand. It has good bearing. It's able to perk the water very quickly. So any stormwater that's on that site is actually going to be retained on site through catch basins and interconnecting lines that will be perforated with stone and so on that will allow that stormwater to enter the catch basins, the leach basins, enter the lines, and then percolate into the ground. If there should be at such a point where that is not able to be handled because of some adverse amount of water that comes down during a particular hour or storm, then there would be a controlled outlet that would go into the ravine and disperse. So the stormwater is not a significant item. Most of the landscape, or let me back up a little bit. Most of the topography of that property actually is higher on two of the two sides, the south side and the east side. It goes to pretty close to the rim of the ravine. The ravine, of course, slopes down, but then it has a gentle slope going back to the west. And so we're going to be able to maintain that water on that property without too much difficulty. Going through that. Now, next we want to look at lighting. Brief overview of the lighting. It's going to be low, indirect lighting for the roads, so that it's not going to be basically high and LED type street lighting. It's going to be pretty muted to keep a nice feeling in the community. Landscaping, like I mentioned, the gate would be gated. Border fencing around the property on at least two sides. It would be something similar to a PVC complete screen type fence that would screen this property from the adjoining neighbors and the adjoining neighbors from this property. And then the rest of the property would have some type of ornamental fencing to go along with it over the ravine and to the front and so forth. Landscaping, typically go through, landscape everything, including some landscape screening, different type of arborvitae, and different type of things to help break up the silhouette of the property. And then, of course, going through and between all the units and around, replace trees that have been taken down. So we got new planting of deciduous trees and evergreens and so on and so forth. So it's going to be a complete community unto itself. And as you can tell, it is not a typical mobile home park. Once these houses are in place, they're never, ever going to go anywhere. Number one is because it's going to be impossible to move them. If you look at the site plan, these houses are 76 feet long without the towing neck on them. And so those are basically almost 80 feet in length then. And to connect that with a truck and try to move it once they're in place is going to be impossible. They just cannot make the turns. So it's going to have to be, this project is going to be staged in such a way that the units are going to have to be made up and brought in pretty much in one time to get them into place. What we're looking at also is for the foundation and so on for these units is to excavate, lower the units down into the ground, 24 inches into the ground, so that they'll be basically 8 to 12 inches, the floor will be 8 to 12 inches above finished grade, just like code requires a minimum of 8 inches to wood. That's the same thing we're going to have. We'll have masonry blocking around the perimeter of it instead of metal skirting or vinyl skirting. So this is going to be it's going to be a very, very nice and traditional building. It's going to be a home. It's people's home. The one end have porches on them built into the units themselves, open and modified to so that they're very architecturally attractive. And from there, it's just like any other community in South Haven. It develops, it becomes itself. And it's got all the amenities, all the roads, and they are homes. You can put any kind of label on them you want. They're going to be permanent, single-family dwellings. So that pretty much ends it. Anybody have any questions? And another thing was mentioned, I believe, last month was about the number of units. We're maxed out at 24. There can never be any more onto this property. It's maxed there. So there's no more room left for them. The rest it's going to be is open grass communal area.
Mr. Chair?
Comments, questions?
Yes. First thing, Kelly, could you put up page 32? I think everybody'd like to be able to see that in the audience. Second, thank you, Mr. Wojciechowski, for your synopsis. And I think the only question for me at this time, you mentioned home, permanent single family, and also the word bungalow. I think one of the questions that's been going around is whether these are year-round or seasonal.
Well, these homes are definitely going to be year-round homes, such as any other home in the city. Sewer, water, heat, cooling, it's all there. The property will be maintained 12 months out of the year. So it's definitely a year-round community. It's up to the individual how they use their property. We can't dictate that. No one can dictate it how anyone's going to use their home. So
But I believe it's correct to say that under the Michigan Mobile Housing Commission, you would be licensed as either a seasonal mobile home park or,
No.
well, you can be.
You can be, but it's not.
That's not the intention.
No. That has a different criteria in regards to water, sewer, and those type of things. So, no, this is a full, we'd have to get a full park license from the state of Michigan. And yes, they have some oversight into it. I know everyone's afraid of that. It's relatively very minor. And I've dealt with them before in other instances. They have some minimum requirements for lighting, parking, distance between units, and so on. And generally, we exceed all that.
Other comments?
And another thing that I wanted to also mention, and if you see fit, if we advance and get to the site plan review stage and so on, it can be added as a counter, so to the resolution, that there will be no STRs, no short-term rentals in this development, period. In fact, there won't be any rentals in this development.
Mr. Chairman?
Other comments or questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the presentation. I have maybe two questions, depending on your answer. I might have more.
If I can answer them, I'll take it.
So the first question that I have is, and I spoke with Kelly about this morning, it would seem that you could have accomplished this without rezoning if you would have gone for a PUD as opposed to having a rezoning.
Yes, you're probably right. But here's the thing. We went on what was already in the current zoning ordinance when this thing started. And our engineering all went to that under the assumption. Well, evidently, we missed on the assumption because here we are looking for rezoning. And so we're going to have to reinvent the wheel, throw out one whole scenario and start with another one and bring it in. We feel this is the proper way to do this site, and it lends affordability to the people also. And yes, we could get up to, I think, with the square footage and everything, I think we could be allowed up to like 35 units on this piece of property. And it could be multi-story, where this is going to be one story, low, non-intrusive, not looking over anybody's fence into anybody's backyard. So there's a lot of plus sides to this.
So you basically chose to not use the PUD and without rezoning, and as opposed to doing what you're asking for, a rezoning.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time following.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. So you chose then not to go with a PUD with the benefit of not having to have the rezoning done, instead choosing to have the rezoning so you could have an MHC.
Well, yes, because we were so far along with the planning and the project. Everything that we were doing was gearing into that. We were even looking for space, trying to block out space in the manufacturer's scheduling, and that's set aside now.
Just to add, it is because the property owner, it is because the property owner was choosing to pursue development using manufactured housing units that brings us within the manufactured housing rezoning district and the process that's set up by the state. So that's the reason why there's not the pursuit of the PUD, because we have manufactured housing units that are subject to a different set of rules, and those are the rules that we are proceeding under.
The other is more of a confirmation. So I recently read that you're talking about 5-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,300 square foot homes that are going to be priced around the $500,000.
I'm not privy to the pricing, to be quite frank with you. I think that's going to be dependent on where we're at now with the later date and the ongoing time. As time passes, it increases as we go. But I'm sure it's going to be somewhere around that or more.
Right.
I'm just basically construction, and that would have to be decided by Mr. Rothner and his other stakeholders.
Okay, and I'm not holding you to that 500,000. I'm simply setting it as a bar because I think in this town for the last 4 years, we've been talking about missing middle housing, and I think the missing middle housing value is far below the $500,000 price tag that these
Of course,
manufacturers' homes are going to be.
Most definitely. I've sat in a number of the housing seminars that were held out to the school and so on from the township. I'm on the South Haven Charter Township Board. I'm a trustee. So we are very interested in, quote, affordable housing, whatever that means to anyone. And it seems like right now, even though very grateful that the city has approved the Overton project, we seem to be bearing the brunt of subsidized housing in the township. We're mixing some tax revenue too. But we're trying very hard to look towards affordable housing for folks that come into town that have ongoing, young families, maybe both work or whatever, and they're above the lower income for subsidized housing, but yet not can reach that higher mark. And that middle is lacking. It is very much lacking. And this is not geared to that. I mean, really, in all honesty, there's a need for this, just like there's a need for anything in South Haven. And it's not going to hit that mark necessarily, but it is open to everyone, no exclusions. I mean, that's the thing. If we could, number one is the price of the property in itself is almost knocked out from that market. The amount of money that he paid for the property plus the cleanup. The cleanup it actually doubles in cost because of the unknown asbestos that was not shown in the reports that Mr. Rothner had to stand the bill for, plus the biohazard material that was discovered in the building, all the biohazard material that got left in that building from people that had broke in, left hypodermic needles and so on and so forth scattered around the building. So it was a very nasty situation. He's paid for it, and he's ready to move on. But it's significant.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
I just have a comment.
Sure.
Thank you for the presentation, but we really are only looking at whether or not this property should be rezoned. So it's just a rezoning analysis, not necessarily a site plan approval. But that's something we need to really think about.
But there's so much misconception out there and so many factors, and I'm just taking this time to try to set some of those straight. And the misconceptions out there can lead, regardless of what your thoughts are, they all have an effect on your decision.
Well, I can assure you we're going to try hard to make a decision based on what the zoning ordinance says, what the master plan says, what the code of ordinance says.
There you are. I was a planner for
We're
12
going to try
years.
to ignore irrelevant and maybe emotional issues that are in the minds of some.
When I see that list and I see the same names every 2 weeks or every month.
I do have a question about the property itself. And since the demolition, of course, the property's been secured.
Yes.
I would like to have walked the property, but I was unable to. Well, it's closed off. I couldn't. But what I want to ask about is the eastern border of the property. I believe the terrain there slopes maybe significantly down to a creek
does.
or a drainage ditch or a ravine.
Correct. Once it goes up, the property has a slight grade going to the east, but then once it hits about the rim of the ravine, then it falls off quite sharply.
But that is part of the parcel in question. Is that correct?
It's if I may, it's the hatched area on
At
the
the-
site plan. Do you see
Yes.
that?
At the very top. Is
On
that,
the right side of the drawing.
oh, I see. Okay.
That's the ravine.
Yes.
Okay. But that is part of the parcel in question.
Yeah, it starts to fall right behind the units, basically. If you see there's
Okay.
a meandering line right behind the units
Okay.
there,
Okay, I see. I understand.
then it starts to fall right behind that, and it drops off sharply.
And is there running water in there, or only in the case of heavy rain, or?
Yeah, wet season, yeah. And I believe Baseline Road even drains some of its stormwater in through that into that ravine.
Okay.
And it continues on down to the Black River. Many other developments and properties drain into it. In fact, the city has 2 catch basins right at the end of Webster that drain the majority of Webster Avenue that drop into that same area. So what we would be doing would be creating a retention, underground retention, that would perk our water into the ground. And like I mentioned, if there was exceptional rain, then if it overflowed the system, we'd have a controlled outlet into that ravine.
All right, then. Any other questions from planning commissioners? Thank you very much for the information.
All right.
We are in a public hearing, and we can now, I think, invite citizens.
I'll turn it over to the rest of my team.
All right, is there more you'd like to add?
Maybe just a few comments, sorry. We had offered up some reasons why we believe, excuse me. In our original application, we had indicated some reasons why we believe this rezoning would satisfy the standards that are in your zoning ordinance. And as we've gone through this process and we've looked at the questions that have been raised by the public, we've really continued to hone in on our analysis of those standards. And we believe that at this juncture, the request still really does hold up well to the standards that are in your zoning ordinance. We are in a bit of a difficult situation here because the city has not mapped a manufactured housing district within the city, though I think that there is some reason to believe that there is a presumption of reasonableness with respect to a manufactured housing community on this property, because for many, many years it was zoned RM1 with the opportunity to develop it as manufactured housing as a special land use. So at some point in time, there was some consideration given to that this may be an appropriate location for a manufactured housing community. The thing that I would ask the Planning Commission to keep in mind, if not this site, where in the city of South Haven? Because every community has an obligation to provide for legal land uses for which there is a demonstrated need. This evening, the applicant has indicated to you that they believe there is a demonstrated need for this use in the community. Certainly, housing is something that is a demonstrated need or demand by the public in South Haven. Your population continues to grow. People continue to express a desire to live here. This is one of probably the few remaining parcels that is of a significant enough size that it could support a manufactured housing community within a neighborhood setting, without relegating the manufactured housing community to frontage along a highway or abutting a railroad or abutting a commercial or an industrial use. This is an opportunity to allow a different type of housing development to be located within your neighborhoods. And one of the things that I think we see about South Haven is that there is a variety of housing types in this area. One of your rezoning standards asks you to consider compatibility with existing land uses. And what's so very interesting about this area is that while there are single-family houses that abut the 120 baseline property, there is also an apartment complex that has 80 units, and it's at 13-plus units per acre. Even the Windsurfer condominiums, that is 16 units on 3 acres. That is 5.3 dwelling units per acre. I think our architect has calculated here with the roughly 8 acres that we have and the 24 units that are proposed, we're looking at roughly 6 units per acre. Is that correct? Correct. So really, we're looking at a density that is not necessarily incompatible with other residential densities that are in the immediate surrounding area. Going back with respect to your master plan, really, I guess the closest guidance your plan provides you with respect to this rezoning is that if the property were to be redeveloped, the goal was to convert it from the institutional residential use to single-family residential use. And at heart, that's what this application is. It is an application for single-family dwellings built in the manufactured housing style and laid out as a community. So from that perspective, we very much believe that this project does fulfill the city's vision of single-family, conversion of this property to single-family use. It's just a different type of single-family use, and it represents a type of single-family use that does not exist within the city of South Haven today. And that would be a reason to consider approving this rezoning to make sure that you're not excluding that opportunity for that kind of residential development within your community. I know that we've heard that there's no issues with utilities, there's no issues with transportation access. Those are not impediments to this rezoning. I think the real impediment to this rezoning appears to be preconceptions about what manufactured housing might be like. And we did bring, examples of what the houses are intended to be finished like to help quell some of those concerns. I would agree with Commissioner Gruber, this is a rezoning. We're not necessarily talking about a site plan tonight, but the applicant was very deliberate in deciding to disclose its site plan at this point and the architectural elevations because it shows a willingness to be held accountable. If this isn't how this project proceeds, there would be great embarrassment that would follow. And so from that perspective, he was willing to go that extra step, share his site plan, share some of the residential elevations to provide the assurance that his intent is to develop this community with quality, which unfortunately is why it won't constitute workforce housing. Sure, manufactured housing is a form of workforce housing, and if it's not finished in the way that these units will be finished with the add-ons of porches and trellises and things like that to make it blend in more with the environment in which it would be sitting, it could be more like workforce housing. But the property owner is actually taking extra steps to try to address community concerns about aesthetics and making these homes look very much in the bungalow style that Mr. Wojciechowski described as part of his presentation. So I thank you for allowing me to address you about your rezoning standards.
Thank you very much. Anything else? Would the architect like to add any detail?
Well, I don't think there's much more to say other than I studied the plans. I do high-end homes, and we've always considered, like you have, mobile home is not particularly what I want to do. But I looked at the type of unit that is being presented to you. They have really fine-tuned the mobile home style, or what you get for your dollar. It is a fine piece of work. It's like a watch. Everything is there. You've got options. It is really something that you might want to take a look at, because not that many, today, for instance, if you're building a regular home, you didn't want to be out there. My son was out there. He builds homes. But, it's the kind of thing that you want quality. You want detail. This structure has steel beams, full length, and cross beams. It must have 4 or 5 tons of steel that go on top of the concrete. And it's going to be set low. We're looking at options for the exterior environment. It's metal. You don't see a lot of houses with metal. So what are we going to do? Well, we have trellises. We have this option. We have that option. We can make this thing beautiful. And it's an option because, I read the article about Mr. Rothner spending his days on the beach, and it reminded me of when I was a kid down in Sawyer, and I grew up on the beach down there, and you just don't want to leave the area because it's so beautiful, and so that's why I got involved. What didn't they have any other work? No, we wanted to help make something that I think is long overdue because we need housing. What happens when you sell one of these homes, people are going to not live in the home that they were living in. Most of the people that I've heard are from South Haven, so they're going to sell a home. Some of these homes they bought years ago and are lesser in quality and material and cost than the home that may be bought now. So it takes movement in the market to establish these goals that you're looking for. You can't just sit back and say, oh, we want this. We got to create it. It's something that has to happen.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate the information.
Thank you.
I think we can resume our public hearing, and I'm going to preface that part with a request. We've heard many comments. Many of you have heard those comments over the past 3 months. We've read many comments. So I'm going to ask everyone to just try to be respectful of everyone's time. There's no need to re-say what's been said several times already. We value and respect your opinions, but if you can be concise, brief, it will benefit us all. I'll also suggest, as if you intend to speak, maybe you can kind of queue up a little bit so that as a speaker is done, we can have another speaker to the podium quickly, and we can give everyone a chance to be heard. So that said, anyone would like to speak on the public hearing about the proposed rezoning of 120 Baseline Road? Somebody has to be first. Thank you.
Somebody has to be first. Good evening. My name is Linda Alberry, and I live at 777 North Shore in the Windsurfer condos. I had prepared comments for tonight, which I've now decided to not share because of new information shared by the developer. So as was stated by the developer, he and his team had preliminary conversations with staff. And the way I understand it, had apparently perceived, he had the go-ahead to proceed with an MHC at or before the time of purchase. So things are now coming together for me because I live a stone's throw from that property. And I saw the clear cutting of the land. I saw just destruction of the areas near the stream. And I thought, who would do that with the assumption that they can do whatever they want with this? The bottom line is that I don't know what staff said. I never will. I don't need to know. But when that purchase was made, the only master plan in effect was the 2018 master plan. And so it's the burden of the developer to do the due diligence, not the staff. The burden is on the developer to make sure they know what they can and cannot do. And so to assume that we have to rezone to meet the developer's need because of their misunderstanding, it just doesn't hold water. And so I would encourage you to continue to listen to all of the comments of the public and to really think about whether this is in the best interest, because at the bottom line here is as soon as this gets rezoned, you lose control. You can think you're going to be able to talk to people, the MHC commission, all that. They have the final authority, no matter what. And even if this is owned and operated by the developer, and at some future point they sell it to somebody else, the only thing that remains consistent is the zoning and the control of the MHC commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda.
Hi, again, Ann Panelode from 777 North Shore Drive. I'd like to address some of the points brought up during the conversation that you had amongst yourselves at the last meeting. There still is confusion about manufactured housing communities, but as Clark said, it doesn't matter how the structure is built, it's the property you're dealing with. And if you rezone it MHC, it's not a permanent home. It's not owned by the resident. The property is not. The taxing's different. The whole community feel is different. As our city attorney pointed out at the last meeting, you could possibly review a site plan, but you don't have control, and you won't have input over what they put on the property. Numbers don't matter. What the amount is doesn't matter. They can break all the promises and put any kind of structure they want. You talked about wanting family housing. This situation does not encourage families. They're not vested in the neighborhood, they're not paying the property tax, and they're not contributing to the community in the way you were hoping that family housing would. You talked about this possibly being a site for affordable housing. As we've learned, we don't know what affordable housing is, but $500,000, which was stated in the Beacon, so I'm going with that, plus paying to rent the slab that it's on and paying HOAs for any community amenities they have, doesn't sound like affordable housing to me. Manufactured Housing Commission does not mandate that our community has property zoned for MHC. And finally, and most importantly, this request does not meet all 5 points required for you to take a leap of faith in this developer who hasn't paid taxes, didn't follow requirements of the permit, and actually bullied a city council member in the press. There is doubt, so vote no, please.
Thank you very much, Ann.
Hello, Dan O'Donnell from 777 North Shore Drive. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. The bottom line in this whole process is that you are considering rezoning the property. It has nothing to do with the types of houses, how they're manufactured. No one's objecting to that. They're objecting to the loss of control, the population density on how many houses can be put and how many rooms per house can be put in this area. So it's all about population density, loss of tax revenue, but it comes down to zoning of the property. I don't believe the applicant has demonstrated anything, any reason to rezone. They're telling us what they're going to do, but they've not presented any reasons that they need to go to MHC versus the current RM1 zoning. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Good evening. John Alberry, also 777 North Shore Drive. I really appreciate the opportunity to address you and echo the same concerns that you've heard from my neighbors. I won't add much. I do think that the manufactured housing community is something you need to be very aware of and how you would lose control should that be the way you decided to zone for this area. I also don't think that a quickly built cookie cutter approach is the flex that the developer thinks it is in trying to sell this to you as a site plan, and I know that's not necessarily quite the topic of this. One further thing is that our neighbor, Diana Fleming, I think, sent an email which I would encourage you all to read, which has to do with spot zoning and being very careful of spot zoning and the hazards and inappropriateness of doing so. And I would encourage you to read that and mind it carefully. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Colleen Klotz, and I reside at 800 North Shore Drive. And I want to say that even though my address says North Shore Drive, my driveway comes out on Baseline. It is directly across the street from 120 Baseline. I mean, boop, there it is. And so I saw all those trees going boom, boom, heard them loudly each of those days. And my girlfriend said, don't bring it up, but I miss those deer. We used to have a flock of deer came out every morning and every evening to eat, and they're gone. Okay, first of all, I want to mention about Mike. He asked a question about 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. I read that also. That doesn't sound like one family dwelling, does it to you? With those amount of rooms? Pardon?
I didn't say anything. I had 6 kids.
Oh. I just had 4. We didn't need quite that many. Okay. We are very proud of our neighborhood. And I do not agree with the mobile home park across the street from where I live. So many items have been mentioned already as a deterrent for doing this. So I believe rezoning that 7.5 or 7 point something acres, the city is losing money putting up mobile home parks there. I realized that this would give no governmental benefits and instead negatively impacts the surroundings and goes against the developmental plan in place as stated in the master plan. Now, I looked into the money on this, and I understood that the infrastructure was not all set for these homes. That's what I've gotten out of the meetings. So therefore, what if it needs changed? Who's going to pay for that? Is the city responsible? I don't know. I'm asking the question. But I do know about taxes. I researched this through a South Haven taxes amount for the past years. It said that mobile homes pay $30 tax a year. That's it. Now, 24 mobile homes times $30 is $720. That's 7.5 acres is giving the city. Not only that, but they pay zero money to the schools. The school tax, zero money. Now, if they're a single-family home and living in South Haven, the taxes are a little different. $3,640 is the median. Now, I took the property and divided it into individual acres. And I decided we'd put 2 people per acre, 2 homes. Okay. That means we've got 14 residents, or homes, if it was single family. Times $3,064 is $42,896. A little bit of difference. $720 to the city, $42,896 to the city. That's a big difference. Our neighborhood, across the street from 120 baseline or surrounding it, is just the right amount of single family. We have almost every lot filled with single family homes. Not mobile homes, single family homes. We have a few spaces left for other single families that want to come in and buy a lot. Our neighborhood is a walking, dog walking, jogging, bike riding neighborhood. We're very proud of the neighborhood. And I do not agree with a mobile home park being developed at 120 baseline. I understand that 24 mobile homes placed on 120 baseline are going to be such that they have up to 5 bedrooms and several bathrooms. I beg to differ. How many homes, in South Haven even, have 3 bathrooms? That's a lot of people in a home.
You have about 30 seconds left.
Okay. I also need to remind people that once this is zoned for mobile home parks, mobile homes, we cannot ever change it back to single-family homes. Please oppose the rezoning of 120 baseline.
Thank you very much.
Barry Fiddleman, 220 Broadway. That's where I live. Now listen, I happen to agree with these naysayers on one point, and one point alone, very important. You control the future, but you cannot control the past. You cannot control history. South Haven has a history of diversity, respect, tolerance of neighborhoods and neighbors. This park, so you call it, is going to be developed primarily marketed to Orthodox Jewish families who have a lot of kids. 3 bedroom, 5 bedrooms and 3 baths. She says it's not for one, they have big families. They are predominantly Orthodox Jewish families where it's being marketed to. Now, I happen to be on the board of directors of the First Hebrew Congregation, which is a treasured entity here in South Haven, a part of our history. These people, the one thing that we did do with the First Hebrew Congregation when we resurrected, it was dead, is we realized what our definition is. We are a small town synagogue. Small town synagogue, you have to cater to everyone, every form of Judaism, which is the Reform, which we have Reform services on Friday night, and our regular services, which are egalitarian conservative for most of the high holidays and all the rest of the holidays. And then Saturday mornings is an Orthodox service. These people are going to be, is being marketed to Orthodox Jewish community of Chicago and Detroit. It's mandatory. They have to walk to the synagogue. They don't drive on the Sabbath. That's why the location is perfect for what we need and for what the synagogue needs to sustain itself. Now, this is an angle that no one here has even considered or thought of, but that's the reality of it. These are going to be Orthodox Jewish families who really are wonderful. All they care about is their kids and worshiping their faith in the way that they want. Saturday mornings, you will see a majority of them. They will all be members of our synagogue, and they will all be walking down North Shore Drive across the bridge to services Saturday morning at 10 a.m. This is the way we can sustain our synagogue. Mr. Rothner was bright enough and extremely generous enough to produce this project specifically to continue and help our synagogue sustain itself. There's an angle that no one here has even thought about, but that's what the real story of this thing is. So what I'm saying is I don't want to talk about the nuts and bolts of the zoning ordinance and the physical features of the place. I want to just tell you that it's an important entity, important thing for you to figure out a way to make it happen, no matter what way you turn, okay? Make this happen for our synagogue and for our treasured piece of history that we're trying to protect in downtown South Haven. I thank you.
Thanks very much. Mr. Barnes.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for your time again. Andrew Barnes, attorney for Windsurfer Condo Association. Thanks for your time tonight. It's a tough job, as you all know. I want to just point out quickly that you have 5 factors to consider, right? And you can give whatever weight you want to those 5 factors when you make your decision. I'm just going to talk about 3 of them that I think clearly they're key factors they weigh in favor of recommending a denial of the rezoning amendment. If you look at the first one, is B, is this rezone consistent with recent development trends in the area? I think that's clearly a no, right? We all know there is no similar development of this kind, a manufactured housing community in this area of Baseline and North Shore Drive. If you look also at the next factor, A, which is the master plan consistency, I think the answer here as well is no. If you look at the master plan literally, there is no, this land is not designated as MHC, clearly, in the future. And so in light of that, you shouldn't just decide to plop down an MHC designation on this land just because there's no other one also designated in the city. I know there's been a presumption or a apparent threat of maybe a lawsuit for exclusionary zoning because of the way you've done this and not designated an area for MHC in the city, but I don't think it's a reason to plop one down here. And then finally, I want to point out the other key factor I think is C from your ordinance. That's whether the amendment is compatible with existing land use in the vicinity. And this has been mentioned, I know most of you are aware of this already, but even though you've seen these drawings tonight, which I appreciate the time and effort that have gone into that, and the cost as well, your analysis isn't based on these site plans. These aren't guarantees of what's going to be built there. You have to look at, if you rezone this to the MHC district, you're opening this property up to all of those permitted uses, which are, 1, being a mobile home park, 2, a seasonal mobile home park, and 3, an adult foster care or child care home. So you, in voting to approve a rezone of this, would be understanding that all of those are on the table. No matter what you've seen in the drawings tonight, those aren't guarantees, and a rezone makes all of these items on the table. And I don't think you can stretch your definition of the uses that are currently happening in the area, which are clearly, for the most part, single-family uses, to you can't stretch that definition to say those possible uses on the rezone would be compatible with what you're dealing with. You've heard testimony, you've heard from your own lawyer about if a mobile home park is built there, what that's going to mean. The Manufactured Home Commission is going to really control a lot of that under the Mobile Home Commission Act and related regulations. Also, one thing I'll point out too about what you're seeing too is there's no guarantee that if this rezone happens, the developer builds this plan, there's no guarantee still that these are going to be put on permanent foundations, right? Your ordinance doesn't require that. The Mobile Home Commission Act and the regulations don't require that either. So again, I caution you in relying on these drawings that isn't necessarily what could be built if you rezone. So I recommend you find in favor of, or you recommend to the city council that it not be approved. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Andy.
I'm Gerard or Jerry Durkee, 243 Webster Avenue. A retired court administrator. I've lived in South Haven quite a few years now. And as a court person, I'm a rule of law person, an ordinance person. As I stated at a previous meeting, I believe the developer should submit a plan to conform to the current zoning, not the city change the zoning to conform to developer's plan. I have no problem with what the owner or developer does with the property. I do have a problem with the zoning change. It is my belief, and I could be wrong, that under the current zoning, they could put this in. I mean, I don't consider it a housing development or a manufactured home community. I consider it a resort. And now that I've heard other people speak, it might not be a seasonal resort. They say it could be a year-round resort. But after I heard the gentleman speak about the synagogue, now I believe it's going to be a private resort. I don't think I can purchase in it. I'm not Jewish. I don't know if that's the case or not. So anyway, I believe that we could accomplish almost the same thing without changing the zoning. I could be wrong. The other question I had in my mind was who benefits from this? Does the city benefit or does the developer benefit? I can't think of reasons how the city could benefit, but I can think of a lot of reasons how the developer can benefit. One is taxation. 24 $500,000 homes is $12 million. We can't tax that because the homes don't own the property they sit on. But if it was a resort, you can tax the value of the entire piece of property, anything that's on it as a resort. I'm also concerned about the resale. Say in 5 years, the developer said, oh, this isn't going the way I planned, I'm going to sell it. Who knows who the next owner is? So that is why I'm not as opposed to the development as I am opposed to the rezoning. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jerry.
I'm Mary Majorano. I live at 136 Webster. Please vote no for rezoning. I also want to make some statements about what was said. Being a part of a neighborhood means you're a part of a neighborhood that welcomes your neighbors. Fence, gated community, it's not feeling very welcoming to my community. I live right across the street from where the nursing home folks used to come and go. It wasn't that much traffic. It was twice a day. And it was no big deal. So I'm just saying that. But when you look at 5 bedrooms, houses possibly rented out, it's scary to me to think about it. I don't care. This is a business proposition, and like the gentleman said, you can't repeat the past, but we're trying to protect the past for the synagogue. That was new information. I think both businesses will help each other. This resort will help Fiddleman's. Fiddleman's will help the resort. Okay, so the other thing that I want to say is, please, please, please have the DNR look in. If this passes, I worry about the running water drainage into that creek that runs into the Black River. Okay, water runoff is not good, and now they're going to collect it and then dump it all in there. I hope the DNR will have some information, or that you guys will explore that, some information about, is that a good way to treat that creek? We already know they were told not to cut the trees by that creek because of it would cause erosion. So please vote no. Let's do something about building a neighborhood. We have a lot of rentals in this town that aren't often rented out, that are there and welcoming to anybody from Chicago or Detroit. We don't need more rentals. And I just want to say one last thing. I'm going to give a shout out to the people that clear our streets. I really appreciate how well they do it, and they probably can't afford to live here.
Thanks, Mary.
I'm Jay Campbell. I live at 726 North Shore Drive. I learned a couple new things here tonight I hadn't heard before. One was the fact that the developer thought that this property could easily be used as a manufactured housing community. That kind of surprised me. The second thing was that it's not going to be seasonal. And I'm just kind of confused because in one of the letters supporting this, that was actually written by one of the three co-owners of Countryside LLC, which you're just the project manager, right? You're not one of the owners. He said that they were going to be seasonal. It was going to be a seasonal community, a seasonal mobile home park. He also said in his letter that the homes were going to be permanent. Well, I knew that you couldn't be both a mobile home park and be permanent, so I knew that was probably wrong. So there is some, I think, misunderstanding, some miscommunication going on here. But I agree with what Commissioner Gruber said, is that you really have to take the site plan out of this and imagine, unfortunately, you have to imagine the worst case of what could happen if you made this a manufacturer, rezoned this as a manufacturer housing community. I mean, the owners could sell this property to somebody else the day after you rezone it. And what would that person do? He could put together any site plan he wanted and submit it to the Mobile Home Commission. So I think as you're making your decision, you have to unfortunately take the worst case scenario into consideration. The other thing that people keep saying is referring to these mobile homes as single-family dwellings. And I suppose if you do that with a small, a lowercase s, yes, they're single-family dwellings. But in our zoning ordinance, we have defined single-family dwellings. We'll do this with a capital S. It's actually defined as a single-family dwelling. And those are dwellings that are allowed within R1A, R1B, R1C, R2, and RM1. So those are the dwellings allowed in those areas. That's how we define a single-family dwelling. So you may say that there single families live there, yeah, with a small s, but I think we need to be careful when talking from a zoning perspective that these mobile homes are not single-family dwellings. They're not built according to the same building code as single-family dwellings within RM1, R2B, R1A, R1Bs, et cetera. So I hope you also remember that as you're making your decision. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jay.
Good evening. My name is Joe Ashen. I was born and raised in South Haven. My family goes back over 100 years.
Can you provide your address?
Oh, I live on Baseline Road, 270 Baseline. I'm just down the street from the project. That project, 120 Baseline, when I was a kid, that was our horse pasture. We kept 4 horses out there. And in the middle of it, where they had built the convalescent home, there was a huge sand dune. And we used to find arrowheads in that sand dune, and my cousin found a tomahawk head. And I had a whole cigar box full of arrowhead heads, which was a really high, it was a big deal for a 5th grader to have something like that. So I know that property very well. I know the streams, I know everything about it. We used to catch frogs in the stream, turtles. We had, it was a great childhood. I loved South Haven until I got to be about ninth grade, and I couldn't wait to get the hell out of here. I went to college, graduated Michigan State, went out to California to go to graduate school, and didn't come back for many, many years. Came back 10 years ago, bought a house here, and got back involved in the community. I live here half the year. So I'm very familiar with Mr. Rothner. I've known him for all my life, or as much of my life as I can remember. I think what's going on here, and I know how everybody feels, because when people started coming here and building everything, I didn't like it. I really didn't. I didn't like to see all these new people coming into South Haven, chopping down the trees, building all this stuff. It took away the whole what I loved about South Haven. But that's what happened. So you just live with it, okay? So in my mind, I still have a piece of old South Haven because I got a dozen acres with a 100-year-old farmhouse on it in the city limits, which is very unusual. With a stream going through it, the stream from this property runs into my property, okay? So I think rather than everybody fighting about this, I think we should try to come to, I don't think Mr. Rothner is trying to jam anything down the throat of the people of South Haven. I don't think he's looking to make himself a quick buck. The man is extremely wealthy. He doesn't need the money. He really wants to do something here for the Jewish community, okay, and the community at large. And he has it in his heart to save our 100-year-old synagogue in this little town. We have a 100-year-old synagogue. It's very unusual. My grandfather was one of the guys that built it 100 years ago, approximately. So 1923 or something like that. So what I suggest we try and do is come from an attitude that, A, Mr. Rothner's not trying to do something nefarious, make a quick buck, and screw everybody. And I don't think the people here that are against it are bad people. They're just worried about their community, which I can understand and respect. I think probably the best thing is to have a communication and have a discussion between the developer and the people. I'm sure he's flexible. I'm sure we can sit down at the table, maybe everybody get up and say, you know what, we can live with that, okay? We can live with that. I mean, I didn't like the windsurfer condominiums when they built it. The facade is coming down. We used to come down Baseline Road and you'd see the lake. And now what you see is this facade looks like it's out of Detroit. And I got to tell you, talk about trees, there's no trees, no plants, and no grass at the windsurfer condos. It is asphalted from the property boundary to the footprint of the building, all the way around, okay? So you don't hear me complaining about that. I didn't get up and scream and holler at the meetings when they had that, but I don't like it. And I'm sure that Mr. Rothner would be willing to work with everybody to come up with something that would work. That's what I think. Now, I could go on about a lot of other stuff, but I'm not going to, okay? Anything else?
No, thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else would like to speak? Excuse me, it's not appropriate to take multiple opportunities, so thank you very much. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Support.
Moved and supported to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The public hearing is closed. Commissioners, I'll invite your comments, summaries, last words.
I think you need to go for zoning in 2503.3. I think we need to review that.
Well, I've got several references that I was going to cite in the zoning ordinance. I'm not sure what 25, I've got page numbers is what I've referred to.
Yeah. The map amendment rezoning.
Oh, okay, I've got it, yes, I see it. And that's page 216 in the South Haven zoning ordinance of January 2025. And that's specifically, it says, in making recommendations on a proposed amendment, the Planning Commission shall consider the following factors, and it lists A, B, C, D, and E. Did you want to comment on any of those specifically, Tim?
No, I think you just probably want to review each one.
Okay. A says if the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the city's adopted master plan. The master plan adopted is from 2018. Everybody knows there's been an effort to revise that. There is a draft that may be approved sometime in the future, but the relevant master plan is from 2018. And I guess in regard to that, I'm going to cite a couple of things there direct from the master plan. Page 49 of the master plan makes a recommendation for single-family land use. And you could debate, I think, long and hard as to what is a single-family home. I'll let you draw your own conclusions. I'll tell you as well, on page 113 of the master plan, the future land use map recommends multifamily, multiple family, attached residential, or resort usage. That's what the land use map says in the 2018 master plan. And finally, in regard to the master plan, on page 76, it says when a request to rezone is made, the following factors need to be considered. And I'm just going to cite two of them. One is community impacts, increased traffic, need for water, sewer, public safety, et cetera. And secondly, any adverse effects on adjacent properties. Will there be adverse effects? But to Tim's point about the zoning ordinance, is it consistent with the master plan? Is it compatible with existing land uses in the vicinity? Certainly some would say no to that. Further in the zoning ordinance, it says this specifically in regard to a mobile home community, it says, a mobile home community shall be located in areas compatible with adjacent land uses and consistent with the master plan. And it says further, sites with an abundance of natural features, forested areas, wetlands, steep slopes, are not suitable. That's directly from the zoning ordinance, page 78. So, Tim, are those the key points you wanted to refer to there? Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I was just suggesting that we go through those and.
And Mr.
The five-
Chairman?
Yeah, the 5 points,
Yeah.
that's really what we have to answer.
We have to go through the 5 points each
One
at a
by
time
one.
and
Okay.
either say that it is consistent or it is not consistent when developing a resolution, either to approve
Are we
or
going to
deny.
consider a vote on each of those items or just discussion? What's your pleasure?
Probably to be sitting at home watching a movie, but
Why don't we vote?
yeah, we'll have a vote. But I guess that would be up to you. There are these 5 areas that we're going to have to handle each one, whether it is or it is not. And so I think our total resolution then would go forward
Whether
with
it supports
answers
the
on all of
resolution or
them.
not. Correct.
And I think we probably would need kind of a straw vote to go along here to figure out how we're going to lay this out, because each one of those do in fact need a sentence or two to justify why we think it is consistent or it is not consistent.
All right, then item A, if the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the city's adopted master plan, what's our consensus?
Or is it not? Yeah.
Or is it not? Right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Before the Planning Commission gets into the individual factors, one point that the Commission may want to clarify from the applicant, when Mr. Wojciechowski was speaking, he addressed short-term rentals and indicated that he may be willing to add as a codicil to the resolution an agreement that there wouldn't be any short-term rentals, and he indicated that he was contemplating doing that during the site plan review process. And I don't believe that a condition on a use could be offered during site plan review. To the extent that the applicant is offering a condition for the rezoning, section 2503 subsection 5.3 provides different processes for what has to happen if a condition is offered. So if the applicant is offering a condition for the rezoning, the procedure changes if it's offered during the written application versus if it's offered at the planning commission versus if it's offered at the city council. If the applicant offers a condition at city council, it has to be remanded back to the planning commission. So because I'm not clear as to whether the applicant is offering a condition for the rezoning or contemplating some other condition, to avoid this going to city council and then getting remanded back, planning commission might want to clarify what exactly he is offering in terms of conditions related to the rezoning.
Mr. Chairman, may I? I understood from the question I asked you earlier was that this property is not eligible for short-term rentals.
Right.
So he can offer or not offer. It doesn't matter. This property is not zoned for short-term rentals.
That's correct. That's our interpretation. Again, as I indicated before, there has not been a court decision to confirm that my interpretation is correct, and potentially the city council at some point could broaden where short-term rentals would be allowed. If the applicant now had offered a condition that short-term rentals will never be allowed here, if the zoning ordinance were to change in the future, that condition would still be binding depending on how it's worded. So I don't believe that the condition is necessary, but it would definitively resolve any potential dispute that a short-term rental could be placed on this development if it's rezoned. So again, I think it would be helpful to at least clarify what he's offering, because even if it's not necessary, if he offers it at city council, it has to get remanded back to the planning commission under your zoning ordinance. And because it's not clear to me if he's offering a condition, the planning commission might want to clarify that.
In what he said, I even went beyond that, said it won't be a rental, period.
But there was no condition included in the application.
No,
correct?
the attorneys tell us we could include it now, if we're interpreting what was stated as an offer.
But it would be the applicant.
We're
would
actually
have to
doing a
offer the
negotiation now.
A condition has to be offered by the applicant. It has to be offered in writing. So again, I'm not clear if the applicant is intending to offer in writing between now and the city council meeting. If he is, and it's not discussed tonight, it is going to get remanded back to the planning commission. So the planning commission may want to ask the applicant if he intends to offer that condition, because I'm not clear what exactly he was trying to say.
Understood.
And as the applicant's land use attorney, I'd like to have an opportunity to discuss that with the applicant before we go further with this conversation. I would just remind you all that Mr. Wachowski doesn't have his hearing aids in tonight, so it's a little difficult for him to hear some of this conversation, including me trying to whisper in his ear to provide him some advice and counsel. So I think my request would be to give me an opportunity to confer before we go further with the deliberations, just so that there is some clarity around what the ask is.
Are you saying you're going to do that now or over time after tonight?
Well, I'd like to at least take 5 minutes now to establish a baseline of whether or not there should be further discussion. City attorney is correct about conditional rezonings. The conditions have to be voluntarily offered by the applicant, and they are also supposed to be in writing so that everybody can be very clear about the scope and the extent of the condition. I would suggest that if the applicant is prepared to offer a condition, it might be more than one.
Well, if they need some time, and looking at the time on the clock, we could take a 5 to 10 minute break at this point.
That might be appropriate. Is there a motion to recess for 10
As
minutes?
long as the applicant understands it's Eastern time zone, so when you do call, and they're in the Central time zone, right?
Oh, I understood. I understand.
I have a question. So if that property sells at a later date, would that condition be tied?
Conditional rezonings run with the land.
With the land.
Following an enactment of a conditional rezoning, there's a conditional rezoning agreement that is entered into between the municipality and the landowner, and it's recorded in the land records so that it runs with the land, and anybody who acquires the property in the future would be similarly bound.
Well, my question would be, if we were to take a 10-minute break, and so she can confer, is this something that can be done tonight, or are we getting ourselves into another
We are
delay?
probably extending, but maybe it's better to continue to have the conversation around what might be something that can be accepted by all participants, rather than to maybe continue to head charge into what could ultimately be a land use dispute.
So if it's helpful, I can read the entire section so that you understand the exact process. The offer of conditions or restrictions shall be received in writing with the rezoning application prior to the Planning Commission public hearing on the rezoning request, provided if an offer of conditions is proposed at a Planning Commission public hearing on the rezoning request, the public hearing may be adjourned or recessed to provide the city time to consider the offer, and if an offer of conditions is proposed at a city council meeting, the rezoning request and such conditions shall be remanded back to the Planning Commission for consideration and a recommendation. So again, I'm not taking any position on whether the city should engage in a conditional rezoning, but because the applicant brought up conditions and it wasn't clear, I didn't want the Planning Commission to make a recommendation, the applicant not realize that there's kind of that weird quirk in the city zoning ordinance on the remand process, get to city council thinking that it can go forward, and then having it get remanded back here because we didn't discuss the potential for the condition that he brought up.
Thank you.
So
It sounds like you've given us an opportunity. We could go forward this evening and either approve or deny.
So
But
again,
it has to be the condition has to be in writing, which we aren't going to have tonight. So that would mean it would go to the city council with the written condition, and then it would have to be remanded back to us, correct?
that could be one of the ways it goes. We could also pause and get some clarity around what was offered and the intent behind it, so that we avoid going to council and just coming back.
Or, because it has to be in writing for us to consider and approve in order to pass on to city council, the other option is that we defer a vote on this
Correct.
by another month or whenever.
Correct.
Maybe have some more discussion, maybe not. Probably not have the discussion until we actually have the conditions, so we aren't talking about this over and over again.
And this condition in writing has to be, it says clearly what Nathan was referring to, it has to be provided prior to the Planning Commission public hearing and the rezoning request.
Well,
So we'd have to get the
presumably have
condition.
another hearing, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
if conditions came forward, I think an additional hearing would be appropriate.
So the additional discussion we would have wouldn't necessarily be around the 5 elements of rezoning, but rather, what are the conditions that we want them to come back with? Is that true?
No. Unfortunately, the way it's written is the conditions have to be voluntarily offered.
Yes. for you to consider.
It can't be a negotiation.
Right.
I think city attorney would agree on that point. Typically, the way that conditions evolve in a process like this is that the applicant hears and begins to develop a deeper appreciation of different points of view and finds ways in which to be able to accommodate those points of views as part of the rezoning request. And so there could be some, I think, beneficial movement forward with some additional discussion with the applicant and his representative in terms of intended scope of conditions.
So then you would be in favor of us discussing further these 5 elements of the rezoning so that you could hear where we're having difficulties, so that you could then formulate some idea of where you would want to bring back a condition to the rezoning. I'm trying to decide if we bother talking about this more, or if we just let you come back with something else at a later date?
I think depending on the outcome of my conversation, I actually think it could be more beneficial if we were to come back with a more complete description of any conditions to inform your discussion. Because we have heard a tremendous amount of public comment, and the concerns have been well articulated, and we've documented them, we've read all of the communications, and so I don't think that anything would be lost. It's more a question of what can be accommodated.
Final word, Nathan?
It's at the discretion of the planning commission if you want to take a recess or not.
But a recess
My
isn't-
understanding is the recess, we could take a recess, but the recess would not be for the benefit of this project. This project would be postponed until a later meeting, not for 10 minutes.
So isn't the motion really, if we were going to do it, a motion to defer action on this until, pick a date?
Until we receive an offer of conditions from the applicant.
I mean, I guess you have a couple options. You could recess, give the applicant time to confer with her client and come back and continue, depending on if there are or not conditions. The other option is you could table this, allow counsel and her client to go out into the hallway and discuss while you continue the meeting. You don't need to be present, and then you can pick the item off the table at any point during the meeting later. So if you want to keep the meeting moving, my suggestion would be table this, let her go out in the hallway, and you can resume the
And
item
that
at the
sounds
end.
pretty good in that if her client says, no, I don't want to offer that, we can continue.
Right.
'Cause
Right.
that's-
Right.
Well, then we wanna think about it.
Because of circumstances, I'm just not able to have a conversation here in the room.
Well, and do we even know if Mr. Wojciechowski is authorized to speak on behalf of his client?
I do have an understanding of his authority.
Okay.
And we won't be acting outside of that authority.
Okay. So what's the best course of action here?
I believe the table one, but you have to decide when what you're gonna table it to.
Like a number.
Where in the agenda.
Where in the agenda.
If you table it, you can pick it up at any point during.
You can, but I think we should decide ahead of time which point that's gonna be.
And I appreciate your point. There are other people with agenda items this evening, and we don't want to interfere with that.
Well, if we table it, say, to after agenda item 6, and we get to there and we're still not ready, we can table it again to follow that, right?
Very true.
I move that we table item 5 to follow agenda item 6, and we proceed with agenda item 6 at this time.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to table item 5 until after we've discussed agenda item 6. At that time, consider taking it off the table. Is there
6A then?
6A? Okay. All in favor of that, say aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. So it is tabled. We'll resume as 6A.
Thank you.
Thanks for your help. We can move on unless the group feels like an agenda for necessary reasons is appropriate.
I think 5 minutes would be great.
Yes. Move to recess for 5 minutes.
All right. Done. We are recessed. Item 6. Kelly, would you be so kind as to give us an intro?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have a site plan review on the agenda tonight for lakefront roofing. And this site has recently been addressed as 1811 Dow Lane. This is a approximately 4-acre city-owned parcel in the I-196 Business Park that is being purchased by Lakefront in order to develop a new office, showroom, and storage area. So our Assistant City Manager, Michael Landis, is here with us in the back tonight. He's been working with Lakefront on getting the lot split. It was originally part of a larger parcel, helping them purchase the property. And this site plan review tonight is part of the development agreement between Lakefront and the city. So as you can see from the memo in the packet, the proposal meets requirements for setbacks, lot coverage, and building height, as well as parking and landscaping. There are a couple of engineering notes for the applicants to address on a final site plan, and we are looking for some additional clarity on the dumpster enclosure materials and final signage decisions, and there's a note about wall lighting. These were seen by staff as minor cleanup items that could be handled as approval conditions as long as you all are agreeable to that. So we recommend that you hear from the applicants who are here tonight and then discuss the site plan.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good
I'm
evening.
Jason Avery. I'm half of the ownership of Lakefront Roofing and Exteriors. My business partner, Ryan Fullman, is here along with our architect, Chris Bragg from Whiteman. Without anything further, unless you want me to comment more, Chris is going to address the comments that Kelly just spoke about.
I think that'll be fine. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Bryack, as you just heard. We've received your review letter, and we basically agree with your review letter. We've already revised most of the plans in regard to it. We can go over it item by item if you like, but if this could be handled administratively with a conditional approval, I think we would be happy, and it would move along your meeting quite a bit. But I'm totally prepared to go item by item if you like.
I think just the items that you noted, is that?
Sorry about that. Really, it's up to you, Mr. Chairman. If you'd like to go through the items that were mentioned in the engineering report, or if you'd like to talk about signage and lighting, that's really up to you.
Comments, thoughts, commissioners?
I found the comments to be relatively minor, and I don't believe any of them, from my perspective, were of significant substance. And so if they're willing to allow us to approve it conditionally, assuming they adequately address the comments of the city engineer and the other groups that have done the review, I personally think in this case that's adequate.
Okay.
I agree.
I agree.
Because we're going to have city oversight with regards to making sure that handles with the project, so I as well.
And I do agree as well with that, Paul, and just think it's a very good plan and good for the growth of your business, so well done.
Well, could you call my boss and tell him that too?
No. Is there any other discussion? Is there a motion?
I move, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't make it right now, so maybe
It's page 41 of the agenda packet.
41,
if you've got-
all right.
And on page 45, there are the recommendations with some 5 points that are brought up by staff.
And you may read them or just reference them.
Right, I would reference them. I still don't have the, you said it was on
Page
40.
45.
45, I thought you said 41, sorry.
Just click there and it'll go to 45 if you want.
All right. So, I move that we approve the site plan for Dow Lane, given the 5 lists, priorities or lists, and also the notes from the engineer.
I'll second that. If I can add, the 5 items are on page 45 of the agenda. The 5 items that we'd like to make conditional.
Yep, thank you.
Kelly, I'm looking, is there a resolution in there that I haven't come to yet?
We did not include a resolution for this site plan approval. We've not handled site plan approval with a resolution previously, and so we did not do that this time.
It's a valid motion.
I'm sorry?
It's a valid motion.
Okay. Any discussion? Moved and seconded to approve the site plan?
One discussion item.
Yes, sir.
It's more of a point of interest. This is on Dow Lane. Does anybody know why it's called Dow Lane in the industrial park?
I do not.
No? Anybody? So when I was at city council, I had the opportunity to name a street. And this one was named after Joseph Dow, who was one of the early pioneers of South Haven, and he was the first casualty from South Haven in the Civil War.
Well, that's good to know. And if I can get there, I'll tease Brad just a wee bit. The site plan is not for 1811 Down Lane, but for Dow Lane. You're spelled correct. Gotcha. All right, then, it's moved and second to approve the site plan. Shall we do a roll call, or please do that, Samantha?
Campbell,
Yes.
Fenton,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Stegman,
Yes.
Varney,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I do want to compliment you for the plan that you submitted and how accurate it was, and your discussion with Michael about it to take care of all the details I needed to take care of. And we really want to welcome you into our community. Thank you very much.
And I'll testify, Jason's done some work on my house and did it very, very well, his team. Maybe he doesn't get the credit, but a good citizen, good group to have in the industrial park. That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you very much. We look forward to working with the
Thank
city
you.
staff.
Thank you.
on
Good luck. All right, then we can move forward
6A.
to 6A. Would you like to speak to any possible conditions?
Not this evening. We have authority to move forward on partial conditions, but we have some ideas that we would like to discuss with the landowner that we do need authorization to pursue and to put in writing and submit. And so we would like to do that with the goal that we can be back here in January.
Okay.
Keep
Thank
the
you for that.
conversation going.
Thank you for that. So again, I'm going to go back. What's our pleasure? Do we want to go through the 5 items in the ordinance and get a sense of what our collective opinion is?
No. I'd say we just do a motion to postpone to the January meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second to push the item to the January meeting?
And do I have to be more specific on the actual date this time?
No, I think January meeting, you don't have to.
This time it works. Last month it didn't work.
Yeah.
Well, no, last month the issue was there wasn't a date certain at all. The meetings for 2026 haven't been set yet, so the January meeting is fine, and you'll be setting meetings shortly. However, I would probably defer to staff if the January meeting is.
My concern is that we will need to renotice a hearing by, I think, next week, and we may not be ready to do that. We may not have had the conversations that we need to have to place a public notice.
My suggestion, and it's ultimately up to the discretion of the planning commission, would be to postpone to a date to be determined after the applicant has submitted their conditions. That way, again, we don't even know what the conditions are. There may have to be some discussion with our office review of the conditions. We don't really know the scope. It's going to have to be renoticed. Presumably, Williams and Works is going to be evaluating those conditions. So I
Right.
would suggest just
Fair enough.
postponing.
All right, withdraw my motion, and I'm gonna, the new motion is to postpone until, how did you phrase that? I can't remember. Until such time as,
I think a date to be determined based on the applicant's submittal of conditions.
yeah, date to be determined based on the applicant's submittal, yeah.
Any conditions?
Yep.
All
There you
right,
go.
the new motion is there and supported. Any discussion of the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
This one might go down as a record for longest.
Yeah, this will make it 6 months or more on the agenda, but
It's okay.
It's all right, we'll get it right.
get it right. Yep, yep. All right, then, moving along, agenda item number 7, the item has to do with 285 Black River Street and a zoning map amendment, and we have an associated public hearing. Kelly, would you like to kick that one off, please?
Yes, thank you. This request has been submitted by William Zinser on behalf of the property owner to rezone the parcel at 285 Black River Street from R1B to R2. The parcel is about 3/4 of an acre, and the applicants have said they intend to develop condominiums that are similar to those that currently exist to the south. The R2 district allows single and two-family housing by right and multifamily housing by special land use. So we recommend that you hear from the applicant, hold the public hearing, and then review the rezoning standards before taking any action on the request.
All right, and the applicant is here, I assume? Please come forward and share some details with us.
Good evening. I'm Will Zinser. This is my first planning commission meeting of my life. Happy to be here. So this application was submitted essentially to start the process of a feasibility check. They intend to do condominiums on this property, and without this rezoning application approval, we cannot start the site plan or concept sketches for this. So essentially it is just putting it out on the table and hoping that we can get to that next step, because it is a little bit of money to try and get some accurate site plans from engineers. So if you have any questions, feel free.
Questions for the applicant?
No, maybe it'd be a good idea to put page 85 up.
Yep. Got some difficult topography to work with here, it looks like.
Yeah, and the lot is odd shapen.
It is indeed, yes.
So I guess what is your question based off of that?
Well, just an observation, really. I know the west side of that parcel is pretty steep as it goes towards Park Avenue.
Yes, sir.
And you can see from the topo lines, you're going from elevations of over 600 feet down to 586 maybe, so you're losing 20 feet, so there's got to be lots of runoff, and I think maybe we had a comment from someone about it's not uncommon to see standing water on that parcel.
Yeah, and so the King Company, the owners are the King family. The King Company does specialize in construction and foundation work and
seawalls.
Yeah, and land construction as well. So I'm sure that will not be the case once this property is developed, because believe that is a major problem. Flooding, obviously, is a major problem, so I think that'll be very much understood in the design process.
And is the property itself in a defined floodplain?
I believe the floodplain elevation is 584. I think we just barely are above that level, and I believe that we have done a lot of update to that seawall that we have on the other side of the road from the property that we are going to be developing in case of flooding.
Chairman?
Yes.
So the staff report indicated under E that it is in the flood zone, and I know in pulling up the map, you can do a search based off of our zoning ordinance to see what the floodplain is, and I know in the 2025 master plan updated does indicate that it is within a floodplain area. Kelly, I'd sent you that link to the master plan update that shows the maps. Do you have that you could pull up? Thank you.
Could you remind me the page number? Sorry,
In
the
my
file
email,
closed and I had to reopen it.
which I don't have. I want to
34
say like
through-
40.
34 through 35 and 40.
Okay, thank you.
I guessed right.
As a note, I do know that the Harborside condominiums right to the south conveniently are outlined by that floodplain map, and I believe that's due to a amendment to the floodplain map, and that is on our radar, and I'm not entirely sure if we want to move forward ourselves with doing a map amendment as well, but can you zoom in on that map anymore?
Are we looking at map 15? Is that the one?
16.
16. It's hard to.
Yeah, so it's where that bend is. And it's just the yellow shows where there's floodplain areas. And I think the maps were, when I was searching online, I saw a notice for comments from earlier this year. My biggest concern is adding more impervious material to that area when it's already has standing water, and dealing with that and the impact on the surrounding lands. And especially if you're going for the multifamily, you know, I don't know what kind of density it would be. I know that the staff report had indicated in sub E about the floodplain overlay district for our zoning ordinance. That's how I started going down that path. And if rezoning were approved, then staff has to take an in-depth look at any potential impacts of the proposed development and its impact on surrounding property. And I think that's where my biggest concern currently exists.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't know the exact elevation that the Harborside condominiums are. I'm assuming that's the biggest stakeholder in your issue, and obviously our issue as well. But I think there's already that similar concern with the Harborside condominiums that with the elevation that they're at. I don't see how the development of our property would be any impact on whether or not they would be affected by a 100-year or 1,000-year flooding event.
Depending on the development, where I see the issue is displacement of the water that currently now is draining through your property.
Okay.
And so how will that be handled and affect the property?
I guess that's if it's a site plan approval, but we're looking at a rezoning, and it's already zoned for an R1B. We're just looking-
Correct, which is a single family.
And R12 is also single and, multifamily residential, so I think.
Well, the application indicates multi-family dwelling similar, and he represented just now similar to what's south of him. So potential more lot coverage.
Wouldn't that have to be addressed with the Eagle permit? I mean, they've got to go through that whole process.
But subletter E is health, safety, and welfare and impact on surrounding areas. So in that respect, this does come into play.
I just pulled up a street view map, and it looks to me that their apron to their property is in the lowest spot of the road, and there's a tiny stormwater grate. So it looks to me like a lot of the city water, even though it's now guttered, is probably that small grate. See it?
Yes.
There's no way it's taking all the water, so that's probably where their standing water is coming from. Needs a bigger grate.
Well, the standing water I see is on the property. In fact, I think I see waterfowl in the standing water fairly frequently because that's on my walking path.
I've seen them as well.
It is a tiny storm sewer.
And so that was my question for you. I have other questions, but I think they're more appropriate to the city attorney.
Go right ahead.
Oh, I didn't know if he wanted to sit down, if
Yeah.
other people had
okay.
questions for him, so that's why I was.
I do have one of,
Please, go ahead.
when I look on page 82, there's a whole series of answers associated with the rezoning application. And the word missing middle housing is used in this section, I don't know how many times, but many times. And I'm having a hard time connecting this rezoning request with missing middle housing, because it doesn't seem to me like the housing we're proposing and the zoning change we're proposing is consistent with the discussion that's been provided that says that this is going to help us with our missing middle housing problem. Am I missing something?
Well, I don't know if you're missing something, but essentially, again, the application is meant to start that process of figuring out where we can go with this property. Obviously, it is not a massive lot, and it is odd-shapen. But if we get approved, then we can definitely start that conversation. And
Well, my concern, and I don't think it's a basis not to approve the request, I want to say that, but it's just like the justification is built on this helping us meet our missing middle housing problem, and I don't see any way where this rezoning is going to do that.
I guess, in my opinion, having multiple units available for owner-occupied housing, and maybe I misunderstand what missing middle means, but is that not aligning with the ability for retirees or new families to be able to occupy near or around downtown South Haven?
Well, we're requesting rezoning. and the way I read this, which may be completely incorrect, but the way I'm reading this is our justification is it helps us solve our missing middle housing problem. And I actually think the zoning request is fine, but I don't think that that justification fits.
Understood.
Okay, I don't have anything.
I think I misunderstand what the missing middle
Okay.
means.
Anything else
No,
for
I
the
don't-
applicant?
I was just going to piggyback on Commissioner Fitton's comment. I think where there is a possible disconnect is we don't know what will go there. And I
Right.
think the bigger problem is you're not sure what can go there.
Yeah.
So, and missing middle is usually, the middle, the 80 to 120% area median income, so 75 to 125,000 annual family income. But we don't know what price point it will be, and as time progresses, the price point unfortunately continues to go up just out of nature.
Right. I am 23 and I cannot afford anywhere, so.
Sorry to laugh.
There you go.
And I think that's the problem is this is saying it's solving the problem, but there's no guarantee that it will solve the problem.
Right. And it's unlikely.
The rezoning has to be considered without really regard to that, because exactly right, it may, but it may not, so. And I think now that puts us back to where we were with the Baseline Road. We're back to the 5 conditions or 5 factors.
Okay.
When considering a rezoning.
Mr. Chairman, we
Yes,
still need to
ma'am.
hold a public hearing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, then we need a motion to open a public hearing for agenda item 7.
I move to open the public hearing for the 285 Black River map amendment.
Second.
Moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing is open. Anyone who would like to come forward and speak to this issue, please do so.
Hello, my name is Nick Yetter. You received the email from my wife, Sarah. I was just going to touch on a few of the notes. So we own the property at 288 Park Avenue. On your map, it's the C38 property, which sits above. I think you mentioned the elevation, Mr. Chairman. We're about as high up over the top of that property as anybody other than maybe our neighbor at C39A. So we oppose the rezoning and construction of what appears to be duplexes or condominiums, multiple. The proposal raises significant concerns about parking and traffic. It's a busy street, particularly during event weekends. You're going to lose parking already. I mean, my street is, I get people trying to park in my driveway during some of the events already. I'm not sure what's, you're going to lose parking down there. They already struggles with limiting parking, congestion, particularly on weekends. The additional housing, which would likely be used for rentals, will increase congestion, decrease available street parking, make it more difficult to navigate the area. The infrastructure is not equipped for this increased density. Additional units mean more strain on the water, sewer, stormwater systems, and city services. I'm having significant erosion on my property on the hill on the back. I have a shed that sits towards the back of the property that I'm probably going to have to tear it down. I mean, I'm not sure that I can reshore it. I mean, we could put some sort of monster retaining wall in there. But given the water that's gathering down there, I mean, nobody sees the birds sitting in the water more than we do when we're sitting on our deck. So I'm not opposed to the development. I just think that the ground is not structurally sound enough. It's already been mentioned that it's an unusual, irregular shaped lot. It sits extremely low and often has a lot of standing water, reducing the green space. By splitting the lot will only worsen the damage and drainage. Finally, I think most importantly, approving the request would create a problematic precedent If this lot can be split despite its existing zoning and drainage issues, other parcels in the city could pursue similar changes, resulting in adverse effects in the neighborhood that residents never agreed to, including the property across the street that's owned by the same individual. The representative cited it, that's on the river, on the other side of Black River, that would be next, that they would, I believe, go to rezoning that property. Our property is considerably higher. The elevation behind where that property is considerably higher than the property and elevation behind the Harborside condos. So I don't know that it's an apples to apples comparison to the erosion and the hill that flows into that. And it wasn't even on my list, but the middle housing dilemma can't possibly be met by that. If you look at the prices that the Harborside condos have been selling for in the last couple of years, there's no way that those are middle housing. So add that to the list as well if that was one of the criteria. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Good evening. My name is Susan Peterson. I live at 270 Park Avenue. I don't directly overlook, but I have a little piece of pie there, and I've lived there since 1995. I'm against rezoning this. Lack of parking, tremendous traffic, high congestion already exists. We've got drawbridge up and down to deal with. There's cars parked all along Black River Street already and my street, Park Avenue. Sometimes my driveway is parked in or blocked by somebody parking on the street, especially festival weekends or really any weekend during the summer. So the problem already exists. It's exemplified by the drawbridge, and this would affect not just our area that got the notice, but the entire north side this would affect. I've lived there long enough. That has bought and sold a number of times. I've watched telephone poles disappear, big metal pilings, two-story pilings disappear on that site. There's standing water, there's ducks and geese floating all the time. There's about 8 does and 1 12-point buck now chasing them all. The owner of that property is a poor steward of his own property. Is there along the river a boat dock? Yes. A couple of big boats? Yes. The property itself is awful. It's an eyesore. There's a really, really ugly storage building that they keep an ATV in. They drive trucks all over the property. There's no driveway. There's no parking spots. There's a pile of dirt as tall as me. And it's been that way for years and years. In fact, I was going to submit a complaint to the city. Don't they have to clean this up? This is awful. It is far below our standards on the north side, I'll tell you that. So when the owner bought this, he knew what the zoning was, and it should stay the same. The landings, those condos have sunk. They had to jack and redo the footings. That also happened with the condos right below me, Harborside. They sank. They couldn't open and close their doors. They had to jack up and redo the foundation. That's going to be nothing but problems for all of us on the north side, and many people have given up on building there, especially a multi-purpose or a big condo. It's too heavy for that site. They'd be lucky to put one house in there. So no, there's standing water all the time. Vote against it.
Thank you very much. Any other comments on this agenda item? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The public hearing is closed. Comments, commissioners?
Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question for our city attorney. As has been observed, the lot is not your standard lot. And R2 requires, a lot width of 66 feet. I guess it just depends on how you calculate the lot width. And looking at the setbacks, it's just the north end is only, I think, about 50 feet. The south end is 204 feet. Is a variance required to rezone a lot that doesn't really may not necessarily meet the lot size requirements?
The lot width requirements for R1B and R2 are the same at 66 feet.
Okay. But does it meet the requirements? So, those sizes may have been set, those dimensions may have been set after it was identified as R1B. To me, Kelly,
I have not measured the lot width. Lot width is calculated at the front yard setback line. I have not measured that, though. I don't know if staff has.
And I'm sorry, Kelly, I thought of this after we spoke, so that's
The
why I didn't.
the lot width on Black River Street exceeds 66 feet.
So is it north-south? Is that the width versus east-west?
Well, it's a corner lot. It would have, we would identify a primary front yard at the time of development. We wouldn't identify that now. It has a Black River Street address.
Okay.
If I may ask, is this currently 3 lots?
It's currently 1 lot.
So when I look at page 89, but it shows 3 lots.
Right.
That doesn't matter?
See the little lines there? That means that those are actually tied together as one.
All right. But they're asking to make this R2 for the purposes of building, we don't know how many units, right? Because we're not allowed to know how many units.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, if I can address Commissioner Hosley's question, I don't think that it would, so even if this were to be considered a non-conforming lot because it fronts both Wells and Black River Street, and I don't know that that would be the case, even if it were considered a non-conforming lot, Section 2304, subsection 2 states, if the lot area or lot width is already less than the minimum requirements of this ordinance, the lot shall not be further divided or reduced so as to increase the degree of nonconformance. There's no increase to the degree of nonconformance because the lot width requirements for R1B and R2 are the same.
Yes.
I don't see any issue even if there were a nonconformity, and I'm not yet convinced that there even is a nonconformity.
Do you know if the lot is buildable, considering all this discussion we've had about the floodplain?
I do know that it is buildable. The King family owns the King Company, and I actually pulled out my business card because we have all of our specialties on there, and that's pile driving, earth retention, auger cast piling, helical piers, caissons, cofferdams, and then marine construction stuff. But we specialize in a lot of structural integrity work, and the family was mentioned to be a poor steward to the community. That's, I would beg to differ. This might be on a tangent, but there's a number of jobs that we have supported the city of South Haven through. The Maritime Museum Phase 1 and 2 construction was supported by the King Company. All of our structural work was supporting that, and then I've got a list of maybe 15 to 20 other areas of South Haven that we've done a lot of work with.
Are you telling me then that there has been an analysis done on this property?
Yes, we've done soil boring, and yeah, we have a probably older analysis of the property, but that will definitely have to be done again if we were to be approved and end up building on this lot. And then again, the property was referred to as an eyesore, and I would like to say that by developing this property, that would be a complete turnaround, and I think it could add a lot of vibrancy to the neighborhood, and it's going to be designed and built to mimic the rest of the neighborhood and kind of fit in place, while also adding more opportunity for that neighborhood to flourish with more families.
Would you have to also get permission from Eagle?
That depends on whether or not we amend the floodplain map, and I got started on amending the map, but I was, again, waiting for this application to be decided upon to move forward with any other work regarding designing anything for this development.
Hey, Janice, what we've encountered in the past is that area, the curve in the river, next curve, and then the curve after that, there's a peat layer, like 30 feet down or so, which requires to drive pilings beyond that. And a lot of places didn't do that, and that's why they've sunk. And who they hired to do this is the ones who bought this piece of property. I imagine they bought it because it was unbuildable, because of how expensive it is. And King Company, since they own all the equipment, they forego that expense in a way. So they'll be able to build on it.
I agree with you. I watched the pilings you guys put at the Maritime Museum, and it was, I'll bet those may have been 70, 80 feet deep or more.
Yeah, I believe we go upwards of 150 if needed.
Yeah. So I think you're probably right, Tim. I think it probably is buildable with the expertise and experience that King Company would have. So.
And it's affordable because it's their stuff. They have the advantage on that and probably bought the land kind of cheap because nobody else could build on it.
Other comments, questions? Mary, go ahead.
Yeah, just with the odd size lot, you know, and the impact, just, it appears the drier part of the lot is actually the narrower part of the lot, and with the setbacks, it's just not, I'm very concerned with the impact. I appreciate the deep the comments from Commissioner Stegman, but I also am hearing from residents about the integrity of the bluff behind them and what construction can do to that most likely sand hill that is quite steep that we've discussed, and the standing water at the southern half of the property. And I do believe that the comment about the eyesore is actually the property along the lake, not the property in discussion. So.
Anything
I
else?
could, well, and towards that end, so with the R1B, that's a single family, that is going to be, relatively speaking, compared to a multifamily, less of an impact for the weight-wise and construction and drilling, and potential effect of the stability of the hill to the west. So under the circumstances with how wet it is with the standing water, the stability of the slope, rezoning it to a district that allows a significantly larger construction, I think does have a negative impact on the surrounding neighborhoods.
If I can comment on that, I believe actually developing the property would do the opposite of increasing the amount of erosion by stabilizing the foundation of a potential development on our property. It will go far beyond our property lines, and it will stabilize that hill behind the property due to, you know, under the property in question being reinforced. I think there's a lot of benefit that is, I don't want to say overlooked because you guys do your due diligence, but I believe it would actually help with that erosion.
So when Eagle comes and inspects, they will look at all of those kinds of considerations that we're discussing here, and approve it or disapprove it based on what they find as far as erosion goes and water and all of that.
I would imagine so. I haven't gotten far enough into the process to know that far ahead, but I would imagine they have a pretty significant say.
You've only said one thing that bothers me, and that is that you haven't gotten around to removing the floodplain designation for that property. The reason that bothers me is I think the floodplain designation is what kicks in the Eagle review, you know, and really puts the constructor in a position where you have to do things properly. Not that you wouldn't anyway, but it provides an extra level of regulation. So, and I think I understand some things about your business, and I actually agree with what you said about stabilizing the hill, and if you do your work right, they're going to be better off than they are today. I think that's probably true. But I'm really, maybe I shouldn't be bothered, but I am bothered by the fact that you would actually be able to remove the floodplain designation from that property before you started construction?
If I went through the process, Eagle has a portal that you can remove the floodplain or amend the map. And I want to point out again that the Harborside Condominiums has done that. So if there's...
Well, and I heard you say that too, and that contributes to my concern. Because when areas are designated floodplains, it's for a reason.
It's insurance related. Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with building stability and...
Not, I'd say
They're just worried about
10%,
floods
90% of it's the insurance company wanting to charge you enough to cover, yeah.
And if I may, it's FEMA is as Tim was saying, they're the ones that really get involved with it. They established the floodplain maps. In fact, I think in 2023 was when they were adopted here in the city for the new floodplains. They do have a process, and it does go through Eagle as well, to actually challenge the accuracy of their maps. The applicant has to provide the information showing that it is inaccurate. Correct, before they make their determination.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have gotten all the way to the point of pressing submit on that application, by the way. I just have not done it yet.
I understand. Doesn't necessarily make me feel better, though.
I agree.
Are we satisfied that the A, B, C, D, E, the 5 requirements on the map amendment for rezoning, are we satisfied that those are okay?
I am.
I am, especially after the city's input and staff reporting.
I guess one last question. The property in question, does it own part of that hill? Does it just stop at the base of the hill? Where does the ownership?
Based on this topographic survey, it looks like there's a small portion of the hill that is just barely inside the property line. But again, that there is somewhat of a hill going up to the north side of the property, which I would argue is part of that same hill.
Okay.
Can we pull up the map? There is just a small
It's on
portion
page
of it.
88.
By the way, the screensaver was supposed to be Sunny Beach this time of year.
Yeah.
I thought we talked about this.
I requested the ice remain.
Yeah. It's not a big deal. I was just curious what you know.
88, did you request?
I believe it's on page 88.
88 is where that map is. Yes.
Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
So I do believe it is a big deal because if the majority of the slope is not on his property, then the stabilization that has been discussed would not be allowed because it wouldn't be on his property. And that's my concern. So also just going through the factors, Factor A does talk about the missing middle, and we've discussed that that's not really pertinent. And so the findings under Factor A really, as we've discussed, don't meet with what we've discussed. And then I just keep going back to E with regard to the health, safety, and welfare. Oh, wait. Yeah, the health, safety, and welfare because of that steep slope, especially if it is not on his property and he would not be stabilizing it.
Yeah, but we're not engineers to know whether or not stabilization of the property next door and mitigation of some type of high water table might in fact stabilize the neighbor's slope.
Correct. So then we don't have enough information really to make an objective decision on that factor.
Right, but I don't think that's a factor in the rezoning.
Well, I would say for the health, safety, and welfare of the city, and I'm sure that the neighbors would believe that that would be the health, safety, and welfare of their adjacent property.
I don't think I agree.
Mitigate.
This is a rezoning request, and they do have to properly engineer and construct, and they cannot. I mean, they have to go through the appropriate permitting, and they cannot be damaging the property of adjacent that they don't own. So I have a hard time turning down their zoning request when it's not clear to me how the change in zoning negatively affects the health, safety, and welfare of the city. I don't understand it. It's a rezoning request, not an engineering review. And they do need to know their business, and if they don't do it right, they can screw it up. But they do have the capabilities.
Mr. Chair, as the hour is starting to get late and we still have a pretty big agenda, I think probably the best thing we can start doing is, whether you support it or not, make the motion And then we're discuss that motion so we're succinct about what we're looking at and we can keep moving on, otherwise,
Thanks for that. Is there a motion?
so, yeah, I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 20-25 XX. And there's some highlighted portions in there. Would you like that I go through each one of those individually?
Do we want to do that, or do we want to do the resolution?
The resolution is a template
Yeah,
that will need to be filled in by the group.
so I'll go one by one. Approval. I can't do anything with the legal description. Right?
Staff can fill in the legal description of the
Okay.
property.
The double X, notice December public hearing was properly published on November. I don't know what the date was.
Mr. Chair, if I could suggest, those items can be filled in administratively. I think it would be sufficient.
Okay, let's go right to resolved.
Yeah, go to the
97,
resolved and just.
page 97, resolved. Item 1, adopt. Item 2, A, B, C, D, and E is. And I personally don't have any other findings unless some of you do.
Well, I mean, we could look at, and I don't know if I'm overstepping on the resolution that you're making. I mean, we've got A, which we could say the zoning plan for single-family residential land use category also includes the R2 zoning district, which includes attached and detached single and two-family dwelling units and multifamily units. So, I mean, that meets that condition of A. It is consistent with the adopted master plan because the zoning plan for single-family residential land use category also includes the R2 zoning district, which includes attached and detached single and two-family dwelling units and multifamily units as a special land use. That was what staff had provided as some assistance.
And all of these have a because and a
Yeah,
line, because it
correct.
meets conditions.
Correct.
Yeah. Autofill.
So there's no second, right?
No.
I'll second the motion.
All right, it's moved and seconded to approve. Any further discussion?
I think staff is looking for each one of these conditions, A through E, to make sure that we either say is or is not, and then provide some type of status, the because why it is or because why it is not.
And I provided is and because it meets conditions.
Okay.
Anything more specific, you have to amend it.
And I would think more specific would be required in the is not, as opposed to the is.
Yes. I would agree.
So, do we know what we're voting on? Do we know what the motion is?
Yes.
All right, Samantha, would you do a roll call, please?
Fitton,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Hasley,
No.
Sherman, Stegman,
Yes.
Barney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you.
Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
Sorry, does that mean that
You're good to go home and run as fast as you can.
You can go hit submit, I guess.
Thank you all very much.
Don't screw it up.
All right, we have 4 special land use applications. The first is agenda item number 8, for which there needs to be a public hearing. This is 308 Ash Street. Kelly, would you introduce that one, please?
Yes, certainly. In fact, if I may, 308 Ash and 314 Ash are both proposed by the same property owner. I believe Mr. Lafredo's here. Yes, thank you. Beginning with 308 Ash, this is a property located in the Harbor Club development. This is in the R2 zoning district, which is also in the short-term rental overlay district. There is an existing two-family, three-bedroom dwelling that property owner would like to use as a short-term rental. There is on-site parking for 2 vehicles, and as you already stated, we need to hold a public hearing.
All righty.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and supported to open a public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Public hearing is open. Anyone that would like to speak to the special land use application for 308 and 314 Ash Street can come forward and be heard. Seeing no one,
Move to close the public hearing.
Support.
moved and supported to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
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 Public hearing is closed.
I'll move that we approve resolution 20-25 double X for 285 Black River Street.
No,
No,
you mean 308 Ash.
Or 308, excuse me.
That's right.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Chairman, quick
Yes. go
question.
ahead.
So, before the meeting, I talked to Kelly. Kelly, did you get the dimensions of the garages? Just-
Yes, I do have that here with me.
For each of,
The garages are, I don't have it electronically, I'm sorry about that. It is a 21 by 20-foot garage.
The dimensions were not on the application.
yeah. Okay, so that fits to 9 by 18. I'm guessing the 20-foot is the width?
21 feet is the width and 20 feet is the depth.
Okay.
And I drove by there, and there was a car parked in the driveway very comfortably, so we can assume there's 2 spaces there as well, in my view, so. Any other comments about this, questions? Is there,
A vote, I think.
We're up to the vote.
Yep.
Unless there's more comment.
yeah, you made, okay. Roll call, please, Samantha?
Gruber,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Stegman,
Yes.
Varney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fenton,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And agenda item 9, 314, separate application, even though the properties are, we didn't,
It is a separate dwelling unit.
right.
Yes,
it
and it is attached, but it is a separate dwelling unit. It is, again, 2-family, 3-bedroom, existing dwelling unit. It is the same type of unit, on-site parking for 2 vehicles. Please open a public hearing.
Right.
I move to open a public hearing.
Second.
It's moved and supported, open a public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is open. Anyone who would like to speak to 314 Ash Street, please come forward.
Hello, my name's Anthony Lafredo. I reside at 348 Baseline. Sorry, I didn't realize I was supposed to stand up the first time and speak. Thank you for approving that one and for your time. If there was any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. I would say 314 and 308 are identical. They're just on the opposite sides of the home.
Right.
But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Moved and supported to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
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 Public hearing is closed. Is there discussion or is there a motion?
I'll make the same motion that we approve resolution 2025-XX which I think will be 11, for 314 Ash Street.
And moved and second to approve the resolution. Any further discussion? Samantha, roll call, please.
Hasley,
Yes.
Stegman,
Yes.
Barney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fenton,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And agenda item number 10, 353 Woodland Circle Drive, another you-know-what.
Yes, and 353 Woodland Circle Drive is also in the Harbor Club, and this property is currently registered as a short-term rental, but the homeowners would like to finish the basement. And because of the changes to the rental regulations, as we know, short-term rentals are non-conforming uses, and it is not possible to make additions to a house because they are considered expansions or intensifications of the use. So the way for these property owners to be able to finish the basement is to seek the special land use permit, and that's why they are here tonight. So we also need to have a public hearing for this special land use application. And the property owner is here as well, Corey Lee
Anything
Kessler.
that you'd like to add to that?
No, thank you for letting us come tonight. I'll be brief, that we just want to finish the basement.
Okay.
Move to open the public hearing.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is open. Anyone who would like to speak to 353 Woodland Circle Drive, agenda item 10, please come forward.
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Comments, questions, discussion, motions? What's your pleasure?
I move to approve a resolution approving a special land use application for short-term rental use at 353 Woodland Circle Drive.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the resolution?
Is that 2025-12?
Probably. Samantha, would you do a roll call, please?
Stegman,
Yes.
Varney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fenton,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Agenda item 11, 964 Everett Parkway, special land use application. We need a public hearing. Any backstory there?
We do, yes. So now we will move to the south side of town, to the Trailside Development, or Everett Park. And 964 Everett Parkway is a 4-bedroom dwelling unit. There is on-site parking in the garage and in the driveway. And for those keeping track, Everett Park is zoned RM1 rather than R2. And we do have the property owner, Jessica McGrath, here, who can speak about the project, answer any questions that you may have.
Just also want to say thank you for your time and stamina. It's been a long meeting, so thank you for that. But yeah, happy to answer any questions or talk through anything you'd like.
Any questions for the applicant?
I move to open the public hearing for 964 Everett Parkway special land use.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The public hearing is open. Anyone who would like to speak to agenda item 11, please come forward.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and supported to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is closed.
I move we approve resolution number 2025-13, a resolution approving a special land use application for short-term rental use at 964 Everett Parkway.
Support.
Moved and supported. Discussion. Kelly, I had one question in there. I think there's reference to a hot tub, and has that been installed? Does that need a approval from city to do that?
The hot tub has not yet been installed, and there's some question about the process by which the hot tub may or may not be installed. The approval for the hot tub, yes, correct.
All right, so that's not a concern, I guess, right?
No.
Not at this, it's not at this time. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to that, Nathan?
So I believe that if it's either going to be a variance or a PUD amendment, if the hot tub is approved through one of those processes, then the applicant would request a site plan amendment to include the hot tub. So it's not a concern with respect to site plan at this time, but I guess if there's anything that the commission wants to comment on for purpose of special land use, now would be the time.
Any comments there? Hearing none, we have a motion that's been supported. Samantha, would you call the roll, please?
Barney?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Vinton?
Yes.
Gruber?
Yes.
Hasley?
Yes.
Stegman?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Did you come all the way from Bloomfield Hills tonight? Sure did. Oh, well, that's where my daughter lives, so I noticed that. All right, we adjusted the agenda to include an item 11A, Tim, I think at your request. So we're at that point.
Yeah, I think you can explain it best. Like the same thing you said to the city council.
Well, yeah, my comments to city council 2 or 3 meetings ago was that the requirement for these special land use, we're getting pretty efficient at approving them, I guess, but it doesn't say anything to the effort that staff undertakes to approve them, and I suggested to city council that some changes be made to whatever the relevant ordinance is to limit that, and where feasible, at least, let staff approve these. If there are some extenuating circumstances that need further discussion and attention, then we should do that. But I didn't get any favorable response there. Mary, anything you'd like to add?
So at the city council, our agendas have been fairly full. The general comments that I hear is the short-term rental ordinance was just passed. We want to see how things play out. I do know that the city council is awaiting, other ordinances for review, like the sign ordinance. We sent it back for comment in June and haven't gotten anything. We've had a lot of things on our agenda. So in light of everything, and also with new members getting seated in January, that would probably be the appropriate time to bring it up.
And I'm certainly willing to do that, and obviously any of the other commissioners can add their voice to that, so I'll make a point to do that.
I would say tonight we can make a motion that head down that path and actually instruct staff to create a resolution to put some teeth on it. And that way it starts going to city council, and whether it's old group or new group, it's all about the right timing.
And I don't think we're looking at doing less of the importance of the approval process. It's just that, council wanted to see how it goes. We've done quite a few of these. Somehow, if there could be more of an administrative level approval process.
It just took us a half hour for 4 of them.
Right.
Well,
But
it's
how
only-
much did it take?
It's only
Kelly and staff?
10:15. We've got a ways to go.
And this is the 13th one we've done. And
But now we've got something to at least provide council with.
yes, so anyway, that's my thought, is we do a motion to really put some teeth on this rather than a request that's actually been ignored 2 meetings in a row.
Would you like to frame that motion?
Yeah, I'll move that city council amend the short-term rental ordinance regarding special land use applications.
That's a pretty general, broad.
Well, with the resolution that we will next, if this gets approved, then we'll instruct staff to create a resolution where it'll do whereas this, and this, to identify those.
So the way I heard that resolution is to look at all special land use not just the
I
short-term
didn't
rental.
do a resolution yet. That's just the
Okay.
motion to,
Practice, okay.
right?
So what do we have?
Yeah, what do we have? Because,
It's a motion to reconsider the special land use application. And if we approve that, then we can instruct staff to create a resolution to detail it.
I know where you're going with this, but that would again be like just rezoning a piece of property. You know, anything can happen after that. Do you want to put something around the special land use? This is more specific to the short-term rental ordinance?
You're welcome to amend it.
Is that that?
Do you want me to read it back?
It says, for city council to amend the short-term rental ordinance regarding special land use applications.
It's so late, I forgot that portion of it.
Yeah, I think what I'd suggest we add to that is to not require planning commission review unless requested by staff. I mean, I do think staff should always have the option if they're dealing with something that's difficult or challenging.
That's a solution, but until we recommend council change it and they say, okay, how, we can't do the solution part. That's why
I
we're
see where you're
hoping
going
with
for it.
Bob's question, they'd say, yeah, we made a mistake here, here's a solution, what do you think of it? And we go, yeah, that's what we want. That's how this is supposed to go down, but because nobody's taking, action on it, we've got to go the other way and kick it
I'll
back up.
second, I will second the motion
Okay.
with the goal being then council will look at it and hopefully give us a little bit of direction and send it back to us and we'll work on something on their behalf.
Would you read the motion one more time, Samantha, please?
For city council to amend the short-term rental ordinance regarding special land use applications.
All right. Moved and
Mr.
supported.
Sheriff, I guess if I can ask a question, I don't really understand the motion. I mean, so the motion is to have city council do something. What,
Are they
I
doing?
guess, what is the is the intent to send that message? I mean, the planning commission can't move to have the city council do something, so
Right.
I
Well,
guess-
we move all the time to recommend.
I just want to make sure that staff does whatever it is that you want. I don't understand what you want staff to do with this.
If this gets approved, then we'll do a resolution specifying exactly how to change the ordinance. So we don't have to review every single one of them. That's the end
Why don't
goal.
we put that though in our,
So if I could make a suggestion, that if the intent is to have staff create a resolution for you, I think the appropriate motion would be to direct staff to draft a resolution, and then if you could elaborate on at least the general items you would want the resolution to address, my office and city staff can craft that resolution.
Well, I think we need both for this one.
Mr. Chairman, so the approval process for special land use is in the zoning ordinance. We have authority over the zoning ordinance, so instead of telling city council that we want them to do something and have them just lay it aside, what if we instructed staff to create an amendment to the zoning ordinance on special land use that exempts from the approval that we have to make for any STR permit that is being done through the ordinance that the city council passed. And we just take the bull by the horns and do it ourselves and send that to city council when we're done approving it.
which is what they want us to do on their behalf anyway, so do some of this heavy lifting.
You know, and then we're specific, we're doing something within our own authority, and then we're putting it on them to go up or down with it.
Big question is, does Ms. Hasley support what we're saying? Because this was your ordinance.
This is not my ordinance.
This was
Point
one of the
of
things
order.
you
Point
suggested.
of order. I did not suggest this. If that is what you were told, you were given misinformation. This was presented to the group. I saw it for the first time at the same time everybody in the group saw it. And I really, your disrespect is getting a bit tiring.
There's no
And-
disrespect. I'm saying,
No, there is disrespect.
no.
And as Councilman Campbell said, the Planning Commission has the right to take it upon itself. I was going to make the same suggestion. Thank you for beating me to the punch. And so we can make the motion for staff to make amendments to do whatever the Planning Commission as a majority wants. But this was not my suggestion. And the smirk on your face indicates to the contrary, that you believe to the contrary, and that is wrong.
Mr. Chair, if I could perhaps give some guidance to the Planning Commission. I think the commission could consider two actions. One would be a motion directing staff to prepare a resolution for the city council to review. The benefit of that approach is that if city council wants you to proceed with an amendment, they could then tell you that they want you to proceed. If the new incoming city council doesn't want you to move on with an amendment, then we wouldn't spend staff time doing that. That would be the benefit of that approach. The disadvantage to that approach would be it's going to take a couple months to draft the resolution, go up to city council. So if the goal is to get something done quicker, the resolution is not the way to go. The other option would be to do what Commissioner Campbell just suggested and move to direct staff to prepare an amendment to the zoning ordinance. The benefit of that approach would be it would be relatively quicker. You don't have to send something up to the city council to see if they want you to move forward. You would just have staff prepare it, and then if you vote to recommend it to city council, it would go to city council. The disadvantage to that approach is if the incoming city council has no interest whatsoever in amending the short-term rental provision in the zoning ordinance, then all of that would be relatively a waste of time. So those are, in my opinion, the two options that you have to pick from, and it's at the discretion of the Planning Commission which of those you would pick from.
I move that we direct staff to prepare an amendment to the zoning ordinance that would amend the approval process for, what are they? Special land uses for STRs, such that the Planning Commission does not have to approve them. Rather, they are done and approved by the administrative staff.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Discussion?
You have two motions on the
Yeah,
floor.
I have two things.
Oh, do
One,
we
we do have two motions,
Right.
so we have another motion we want to make sure that we somehow clean up. And secondly, I like this approach because it actually gives council something to really look at, as opposed to, we want to change. Here's an example of a change we would like to do. I think it might actually make things go quicker by giving them that example and the reasons why.
I agree. So I guess we should vote on the First Amendment, and then my apologies for
You mean
that.
first motion,
I'm sorry?
the first motion.
First motion.
The first motion.
All you gotta do is take the vote.
All right.
Will you reread the
Read
first?
The first motion was, yeah.
For city council to amend the short-term rental ordinance regarding special land use applications.
That's the motion we're voting on. And roll call, please.
Campbell,
No.
Fenton,
No.
Gruber,
No.
Bosley,
No.
Stegman,
Yes.
Barney,
No.
Sherman.
No.
Motion fails.
And now we have a motion from Mr. Campbell. Please, if you got all of that, it was lengthy.
to direct staff to prepare an amendment to the zoning ordinance that would amend the approval process for special land use for short-term rentals, such that the Planning Commission does not have to approve them, rather they are done and approved by the administrative staff.
Discussion, because Commissioner Gruber had made a good suggestion, I believe, that at the discretion of the zoning administrator, it could be brought to the Planning Commission.
I like that.
That would be something hopefully would be put into the suggestions.
But that,
I would suggest you amend.
it's got to be amended because the
Okay.
the
And then I
motion-
would make an amendment.
No, I just did. I would move
Oh.
to amend based on your comment
And I'll
that at the discretion of the zoning administrator, that a special land use for short-term rental could be brought to the Planning Commission.
And I'll second that, because we do want to have that ability
Discretion.
if something is complex.
Any discussion on the amendment? Samantha, would you please?
So I think we vote on the amendment, and then we
Correct.
vote on the amended.
Yep.
Finn,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Stegman,
No.
Varney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now, vote on the original amendment, or the original motion as amended.
Gruber,
Are we all okay there?
Oops, sorry.
Go ahead.
We are, yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Stegman,
No.
Varney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fenton,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. I think we're at item 12. Kelly, you got some meeting dates for us.
I do, thank you. Our 2026 schedule has been proposed in the staff report in the packet, and most of the dates remain the first Thursday of the month at 7 o'clock. However, there are a few changes due to holidays and some other staff availability and some other considerations. January is one of those months where we would propose to meet on the 8th instead of the 1st. April is another month. October is a month that we propose the second Thursday because the MAP annual conference this year is the first Thursday of the month. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Nathan. And I did call out August. August 6th is the first week of the month. We can meet that week. That will be the kickoff to the Blueberry Festival. And last year, I know that that was an issue that was raised, that we may want to consider a different date for next year. So that would be one change that you all would want to make if you like the 13th better.
Opinions, let's talk about August 1st, or the August meeting date. Opinions, do we want to do the 13th or the 6th?
You know, a lot of these adjustments have been done in the past as something that has just happened. I'm good with it.
Yeah, the August 13th, that would be new. I do think it's beneficial, just downtown is very chaotic.
Busy.
For sure.
I'm curious about the July 2nd as well,
I agree.
That would be,
possibly the week after.
yeah, that'd be the kickoff, the
9th.
4th of July weekend, light up the lake the next day. Yeah, good point.
Yep, good catch.
So are we agreeing we'll do the 9th of July and the 13th of August? All other dates are okay.
I think Kelly's looking at the schedule.
July 9. Just wanted to make sure. July 9 and August 13.
Guess I would make a motion to approve the proposed meeting dates for 2026 with a special note that the July 2nd, 2026 would be moved to July 9th.
Support.
Did you want to mention August 6th as well?
I think August 6th is already in there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's
We're
just the
moving to
July
August
one.
13th.
Oh, and moving to August 6th as recommended,
Move it to August 13th.
or August
I see.
13th
Okay.
as recommended.
Okay.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Public comment. You folks have been very stalwart. If you have comments about items that are not on the agenda, please come forward.
Good evening, good late evening, and I'm not going to keep you any longer than I need to. I stood before you guys on Phil Rome, 95 Willow Court. Thank you for having me, and I know it's late. I stood before you a year ago, December 5th of 2024. And I'm going to talk about the same thing I talked to you about then. But I'm going to add one thing to start out with, and I want to thank you, Tim, because this is the first thing I've heard you say all night that was, from my perspective, something really good. And that was when you guys send something up to City Council and they give a recommendation and it comes back to you with a recommendation of what they would like for you to hear, for what they want you to hear and put in to something, that you take that upon yourselves to do what your people are telling you that you should be doing. And I'm talking about the commercialization of 89 North Shore Drive in the future plan, whenever that's going to be. That could be in 2026, that could be in 2027. This thing has been just hauling, and down. There's so much going on with it. 120 baseline, we haven't accomplished anything in all the meetings we've been coming to. I just can't, you guys got to be bewildered. I can't fathom. So when you send something up to City Council, they give you direction because you're supposed to kind of follow them. I think they're the go-to people, what they kind of want you to do. So you have got words that tell you how to make Lundy's Bakery work for our neighborhood. You've been given what you need. You need to follow that and do what it is that you've asked them to do. Tell me what you want. They did. Now you need to follow through on that. My gosh. We have been present at so many of these meetings, and we sit in the back and we listen to you guys talk. It's a bunch of talk. We've witnessed on more than one occasion when the owners of 89 North Shore Drive have stood before you and said, we do not want to commercialize that property. We want to be a bakery. We want to give it to our children. We want to sell it. We want to do something. Well, then, last week, Jim Sarkowski, he dropped in a letter to you and said, well, I really want it to be a commercialized property. Well, I wonder where he got that idea. My gosh. So the city, you just got to, you've got to do it. You know, kick this thing. It's been kicked down the road. The can's kicked. And here we are, and going into the end of the year, 2026, what's going to happen? What is going to happen? Are you going to follow directions?
What directions?
The directions the city council gives you to follow.
Don't I always?
No.
Really?
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Oh, here we go.
Good evening. Thank you for all staying here and listening to me. My name is Jim Wetlaw for 3 Oak Court, South Haven. For months, myself and other neighbors have been attending both Planning Commission meetings and City Council meetings regarding the potential designation of 89 North Shore Drive. City Council rejected the 2025 master plan as written and sent it back to the Planning Commission to make the appropriate changes, which now appears to be moved into 2026. I was expecting this matter would be resolved this year with the current sitting City Council and Planning Commission. There is no valid exercise to designate 89 North Shore Drive to commercial. Let the two previous master plans from 2011 and 2018 dictate what our neighborhood is and should be, RM1 residential, and avoid spot master planning. The business located at 89 North Shore Drive does currently successfully operates as a prior legal nonconformity, as it has done for many years, and it may continue to do so for as long as it exists. Keep the nonconforming use as it has already been established. Attorneys on both sides of this issue are aware of what a legal nonconformity is and what a spot master plan is. I would hope that we can all work together to bring about a satisfactory outcome to this matter. Do not allow one property owner to capitalize on the actions of this commission. Listen to the current city council and the 20-plus surrounding property owners that want this property to remain as is. The narrative in the master plan itself could note that the bakery operating limited hours is a lawfully pre-existing non-conforming use, that while not entirely consistent with the residential use, it has a modest imposition on the surrounding residents that can be tolerated, but that it should not be expanded or allowed to become more intense. Thank you for your time, and I hope all of you have a wonderful, happy holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm John Busma. I live at 3 Willow Court, and I would just like to comment on 89 North Shore Drive. The comments you just heard from Jim and Phil are my sentiments exactly. You have direction from the city council. You have direction from the city council. You should follow it. You're here at their request. The city council gives you direction. You follow it.
Anyone else like to speak? All right, we have no unfinished business. We're to a summary. Kelly, what would you like to tell us?
Well, thank you all for hanging in tonight, and expect another very full agenda on January 8th.
Mr. Chairman, questions for Kelly?
I'm sorry?
Questions for Kelly? May I ask a
Oh,
question?
please, of course.
So to the point, do you have a date in mind yet for us looking at the master plan updates?
I don't yet.
I know that you have to
Yeah.
coordinate staff from other groups.
I
Okay,
do, yeah.
thank you.
Commissioner comments. Janice, why don't you lead us off, would you please?
Well, I just want to comment on the dwelling place hearings. There were three of them that many of us, three meetings that many of us have attended. And I think they were well attended, the people were listened to, and I think the concept that came up with sort of followed everything I heard at those three meetings.
Thank you. Mary, any closing comments?
Yeah, I'll echo Janice's comments about dwelling place, and they were in front of city council, and we have approved their concept plan. So looking forward to that coming to Planning Commission in January. For the 285 Black River, I voted no because I do not believe that item E was satisfied. The zoning change increases intensity in a sensitive area. Had the floodplain been changed already, maybe I would have had a different idea, a different outcome, different opinion, but it had not. And then just PSA, so Shasta, South Haven Area Water Sewer Authority is having a workshop on Monday from 5 to 7 at the Township Hall, not City Hall, Township Hall.
Thank you.
I just appreciate everyone coming, giving comments about the various projects that we're talking about. It helps us in our decisions, and thank you, Kelly and Samantha, for your work.
The invasive species list, I forget, in our ordinance, did we define that, or is that just a suggestion list?
I can't remember
I
right
can't
now.
either. Yeah.
Sorry.
But anyway, there's a new list out, and a couple that'll surprise people will be the Bradford pear, Pyrus calleriani. That is now, next year, nurseries can still sell it, but the year after, if they sell it, they're fined. And then another one is the, I think it was Cotoneaster, I don't know, or a Japanese, barberry, one of those. Yeah. And which are common plants you see all over South Haven, so please keep that in mind. And then lastly, I don't think my mother raised any idiots, and if she did, they were my brothers. So the short-term rental ordinance, and when we've been discussing it, Mary, I only talk about facts, but between you and other people on council, you'll describe my facial expressions, my age, what I'm wearing, things like that. I'm here for the facts, not for put-downs on personal appearance. So anyway, if you ever want to discuss the actual facts, I'm willing to do that, but put-downs, that just doesn't go anywhere with me. All right, thank you.
Paul?
Nothing. Thank you.
Clark?
I think in the future, when we do our resolutions for recommending either approval or denial of, the zoning maps is another good one. Staff puts a lot of time and effort into some of the areas that we can put into the because. And though tonight, those areas were met in each one of those, I think we could put a little more words around. Although the is easier, I still think we need to justify each one of those in a resolution. And that's just it. Thank you.
Just Kelly and Samantha, we can't do this without you guys, so thanks very much. Nathan, thanks for keeping us on the straight and narrow, and to the good folks on Willow and Oak and so on, I totally understand, and I'm just going to say I'm confident we're going to get where you want us to get. We could have been done sooner, but what can I say? Thanks to all of you. I'm going to say we are adjourned.
Thank you.